Okay, guys, welcome back to another live stream. As you guys can see from the title, we have quite a few topics to cover today. So yeah, there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to discuss. I hope everyone is doing well. Also, to clarify, yes, it's a stream. This is live. This is a live stream. It was supposed to have started at past, but I had some technical difficulties, so that's why. But yeah, it's definitely very much a live stream. Very much live. So yeah, that's all it is. But yeah. Before I even get into the topics, what do you guys think of kind of what we're talking about? Like what are your thoughts on the John Galliano Met Gala? Of course we'll get into it, but I'm just curious to know what you guys think. Good evening to you too. Hello, Uni. Hope you're doing well. Uni, every time I think of you, I think of like your really cool dance moves. You need to give me a dance masterclass at some point. Um, but yeah. Anyway, to get straight into it, because to be honest, there is quite a lot to cover in this stream. Um, so I guess we'll just start by talking about John Galliano and kind of essentially what is the John Galliano Met Gala. And to be very honest, there's so much to get into because I mean, like, where do we even begin when it comes to this John Galliano story? So those of you that don't know, it was recently announced that the Costume Institute will be honoring John Galliano as their next focus for the next exhibit at the Met. Of course, there is normally a correlation between the theme of the Met Gala and what is going on at the exhibit. So that's why everyone's calling it the John Galliano Met Gala. People will be referencing old John Galliano looks. They'll be referencing his philosophies, all those kind of things. That is what we can expect from the Met Gala, essentially. But now there's a lot of conversation around, of course, John Galliano being announced, whether it's a good thing for fashion, whether it's not, and that's kind of the whole conversation that people are having online. But I think before we get into this, the first conversation we need to have is who is John Galliano? Why does he warrant having a big focus? Because I think he's the third person to be alive when they've actually focused on a designer, which is absolutely insane. Um, so it's kind of good to understand who John Galliano is and kind of what his background is. So for people that don't know, of course, he's a legendary fashion designer. He trained at Central St. Martin's as a designer, and he rose to prominence quite quickly through things like his graduate collection and many other things that he was doing. He caught the attention of Anna Wintour. Anna Wintour built a liking to him and his work, and Anna Wintour started whispering to Bernard Arnault that you need to hire this guy. This guy is a really good designer. This guy is the future. So in 1995, he took over Givenchy. He had a really good spell, but it wasn't really that long at Givenchy. And shortly after, John Galliano was able to convince Bernard Arnault that he was worthy of the bigger job, which of course was Dior. So shortly after, he became the creative director of Dior. And Dior is really what John Galliano is famous for. When you think of some of the most iconic runway shows we've seen for a long time, we think about all the crazy John Galliano spectacles that we saw when it came to, Christian Dior. So that was a big time. I think John Galliano really rose to prominence in terms of fashion as a whole when he joined Dior. That's when he went from being a designer that everyone knew was really talented to being on top of the fashion world, essentially. And it was really a global cultural force. Like he had some controversial collections at Dior, for example, collections that were, depicting the lives of homeless people. But then there were also collections that were controversial because something that John Galliano would do a lot when he was at Dior, he would travel the world on what he calls inspiration trips. And he would go to different parts of the world and be inspired by what was going on in these different regions. And that would reflect in the clothing. Some people saw it as him creating these fantastical worlds. Some other people saw it as him sort of taking a lot of elements from different people's cultures and, different regions, and not really giving too much credit to those regions that he's taking clothing from. Regardless of, where you sit, I do think that his creations ultimately were really fantastic. And that's kind of why his time at Dior was super, super famous. He was there for a very, very long time. I believe from 1996 to 2011. He designed, I think, over 60 collections. He designed so many collections there. He was named Designer of the Year at the British Fashion Awards 4 separate times. So this is not someone that just had one good season and coasted, or, had a few good years. No, this is someone by any measure, someone that had sustained greatness when it comes to fashion for a very long time. I think when I think of some really famous collections from him, I think of, for example, the Couture collection from 2004 that was built around ancient Egypt. Even the models were styled like hieroglyphics, which was insane. You think about all different moments like Kate Moss walking down the aisle wearing a John Galliano wedding gown in 2011. And this is just months after he was fired. But anyway, eventually he left Dior. And the reason why John Galliano left Dior was because he had a history of anti-Semitism, and there was evidence against him because he had an anti-Semitic row. Now, there are so many elements to this, and I also think there are so many layers to this, because John Galliano would be really drunk all the time. He would drink a lot. He would do drugs. And he was always under the influence of things, and it made him a really terrible person to work with and for. He would be really abusive verbally. He's been abusive to a lot of people. A lot of members of staff have accounts of abusive things that John Galliano has done. And through his addiction, he would have these rows, and he would just look for the meanest things to say to people. And on multiple instances, and for you guys to get more context on John Galliano's career, I do suggest that you watch this documentary. I actually have a video on my channel where I review this documentary, but it's called High and Low, John Galliano, where they really discuss a lot of what happened. And yeah, there were multiple accounts of him being anti-Semitic, and eventually it came to a halt when a big video went viral of him, basically being anti-Semitic. So he was dismissed from his job, which of course brought to a close a really great era at Dior when he was there. Of course, that then continued. He started rehabilitating. He had this whole rehabilitation arc where he started to rebuild his career. In 2014, this was 3 years after his dismissal from Dior, he actually got a job at Oscar de la Renta. This was also through Anna Wintour, Anna Wintour was essentially who was backing him and the person that was really vouching for him during this time. So that was how he was able to get a role at Oscar de la Renta, which was sort of like a short-term residency in their New York studio. And it wasn't really like that big of a job. It was just kind of to keep him busy and to, build his love for fashion again. And then shortly after, he was named the creative director of Maison Margiela, also because of Anna Wintour vouching for him. And Anna Wintour is so important and so, well respected in fashion. So if you have someone like that in your corner, it's very hard to, get cancelled or to not have a job, regardless of what you do. If Anna Wintour is in your corner, she's that powerful. And yeah, he also had a crazy tenure at Margiela. He was there for, I believe, a decade. And during that run, he had, crazy moments on the red carpet, crazy moments in culture. And it was good how it all ended, because I'm sure a lot of you, famous or infamous, depending on your opinion on this collection, but you guys remember the artisanal collection that he did for Margiela that went completely and utterly viral. And that was kind of how it ended. And then the show he did after that was kind of just celebrating this collection essentially. So that's kind of a quick summary of the career of John Galliano and kind of everything that has gone. Of course, more recently, he has been appointed at Zara. We haven't really seen a collection from that yet. We've only seen him, I guess, design a look for Stevie Nicks, but we haven't really seen an extensive timeline of what John Galliano is doing at Zara. So in that sense, his story is still being told, and there's many more talking points and there's many more things to add on to his career when that Zara chapter closes. Some people are saying, I still can't believe he went to freaking Zara. Objectively, he is one of the greatest fashion creative talents of the 21st century. I agree. Agreed. 100% agreed. I think when people think of some of the greatest 21st century designers, we talk of people like John Galliano, we talk of the likes of Alexander McQueen. They're kind of in those same conversations, to be honest. So yeah, people are saying low expectations about Zara. Fair enough, to be fair. So yeah, there's a lot going on. I mean, something I do want to flag, because so many people were surprised that John Galliano was announced as, this next theme for the Met exhibit. And I don't think, especially if you watch this channel, I don't think it should come as any surprise. For example, this article from The Cut came out in 2024, and we covered this 2 years ago. And I'm going to read out, I've highlighted a part on the screen I'm going to read out, just so you guys can understand why it shouldn't be surprising to anyone if you follow this channel. So it says, and this is an article written by Chantal Fernandez. Funny enough, when I was a writer at The Business of Fashion, Chantal Fernandez was my editor. So I love her. She taught me a lot of stuff that I know about writing and definitely improved me as a writer. But she essentially covered the story for The Cut. So it says, when the annual parade of celebrities ascends the steps at the Metropolitan Museum of Art on Monday night to mark the opening of Sleeping Beauty's Reawakening Fashion, guests will have no indication that the elaborate exhibition they're about to see is a last-minute backup plan. As recently as summer 2023, head curator Andrew Bolton and his patron, Vogue's Anna Wintour, intended instead to stage a show dedicated to the work of one of their favorite designers, John Galliano. His career is still marked by a series of drunken antisemitic tirades that led Dior to fire him in 2011. In the years since, with Wintour's unyielding support, he has sought public forgiveness and returned to fashion, now designing for Maison Margiela. So, of course, when this article was written, he was still at Margiela. But anyway, continuing. A monographic exhibition at the Met could have been the culmination of a comeback, but the Costume Institute's Galliano exhibition is on indefinite pause. According to sources with knowledge of the department's plans, the Metropolitan Museum's leadership feared public backlash. Some members of the museum's board are said to have stepped in to stop the show. And then in brackets it says, a representative for the Met said the museum does not comment on uninformed exhibitions. Bolton and Wintour declined to comment for this story. So, based on this information that we had from 2024, it was quite obvious that for a while, Anna Wintour has constantly been pushing for a John Galliano themed exhibit, and they finally got it. Now, what we have to ask ourselves is, after, it didn't go through in 2025, it didn't go through in 2024, what is so different about 2026, especially when you consider the cultural and political climate? There is a lot of anti-Semitism in society because, of course, what's going on in Israel and obviously what's going on in Palestine. So because of that, I find it really strange that the timing where they thought, okay, now is the time, is now. Very, very strange. Very, very strange to me. But even in a lot of the coverage for this going through, they have been talking extensively about the fact that John Galliano had to get the blessing of rabbis, and he had meetings with rabbis to see if he could actually have this exhibit and if they were okay with this, going on, for example. So that's why there's a lot of controversy around this. And I think these things are really complicated because, to be honest, there's a conversation around forgiveness and do people get a second chance? Now, me personally, I don't want to live in a world where you can't make mistakes and you can't come back from your mistakes. There are some mistakes I do think you can't really come back from, like, murder and things like really serious, like R word. You guys know what that is. Those are things that personally I think you can't come back from. But I think if in a state of, being drunk and being under the influence of drugs, you have a tendency to be nasty. I think as an adult, what you need to understand is that, okay, clearly I shouldn't be doing drugs and I need to go sober, because when I do drugs or when I drink alcohol, this is what happens. And I think what we can say about John Galliano is that over time, he has actually not been drinking. He's been sober since he was dismissed from Dior. And he has actually shown an active understanding of wanting to know better and do better. And he's, met with the rabbis, and he's literally been learned about Jewish culture. He doesn't drink anymore. He doesn't do drugs. There are no, reported instances of John Galliano having these crazy moments that he did before. So I think it's quite obvious that he's not the same person. It's quite obvious he doesn't think the same. So I think at this point, I don't know what else you should do. Me personally, I'm a flawed human being as well. I think everyone is flawed. Have I made mistakes in my life? Yes. Not that bad, but I've definitely made mistakes in my life. And I think that it would be a crazy world to live in where if some of the mistakes I've made in the past, if people were aware of some of these mistakes, even though I'm just not that, like the way I think now at 28 years old is not the same way I used to think when I was 16. But if I was held to the standard of, a mistake I made when I was 16, do we all want to live in that world? I don't know. I personally don't want to live in that world. So obviously people think about this differently depending who you ask. But I'd like to know what you guys' thoughts are on the whole situation. Holly says he has consulted with leaders of the Jewish community and they forgave him. What the heck else can we ask for? Moving on. Let's see what everyone else is saying. I can't wait to see how the narrative around antisemitism evolves over the next 10 years or so. Yeah, that is definitely changing. Imagine you yourself getting things dug up on you and being scrutinized. Yeah, that's exactly what I was alluding to, essentially. If it goes through now, they're definitely going to bring it back up, but he's really been working on himself behind the scenes. So I wish they'd leave it a bit or be ready for the media. I do believe he's working, but I'm not Jewish either. If anyone in the chat is Jewish, I'd love to know your thoughts, or even after the fact. I'd love to know your thoughts on, how you feel about John Galliano in general, and how you feel about the fact that he's the focus of this exhibit. Do you think if he went on a racist rant back then, he'd be blacklisted the way he was over anti-Semitism? No. Well, but in society, people don't take racism as seriously as anti-Semitism. We all know this. This is not like new news or whatever. Like everyone knows that to be true. It's crazy that Kanye hasn't been awarded the same sentiment, although they kind of had the same mishap. So the difference between Kanye, though, is that Kanye has apologized, fair enough, but it's not the same as Galliano because, first of all, Galliano so when he was doing it, it was under the influence of alcohol and sometimes drugs. With Ye, I guess you can make the argument that he's bipolar. Some people believe he's not, so then what argument do you have? And then Kanye's apology wasn't really much of an apology. And then on top of that, the massive difference between Galliano and Kanye actually is that Galliano has met with the rabbis. Galliano has been sober for 10 years. Like we haven't seen, even if Kanye, apologizes, we haven't seen 10 years of, not doing the same thing or not having these crazy rants on social. We don't have that track record with Kanye the way that we do with John Galliano. So it's not actually the same, to be honest. It's really not the same. It's not the same. Okay, some people are saying, I believe Kanye is diagnosed with bipolar. Yeah, so I guess that's the one argument. But I think Yeah, it's not the same because we don't have that track record. Like Kanye could literally turn around in 2 years and do the same thing, knowing Kanye. So until we get like a long term track record, it's just not the same thing. So yeah, it's not the same. And then also Kanye doesn't really have Anna Wintour backing him because to be very honest with you, if the way that John Galliano has Anna Wintour in his corner, if Kanye had Anna Wintour in his corner, I think Kanye would have navigated fashion a lot easier, and his comeback would have been a bit more seamless. To be honest. Um, so yeah, but anyway, moving forward, another thing I kind of want to examine is what do we think a John Galliano Met exhibit will look like? What do we think the focus is going to be on? What do we think, what parts, what eras, what collections are they going to focus on? And I was kind of just, speculating in my head, like what are they? Are they going to show like his really scrappy London era shows? I'd like to see a lot of work from his eponymous label because a lot of people don't really talk about John Galliano's brand. What will be the weighting between things between like Givenchy versus Dior versus Margiela versus a few things that he did at Oscar de la Renta, like what will be the balance of that? Um, I'm just very curious on how they choose to create that, to be honest. Let me see what guys are saying. Draping and dandy. Many figures like Galliano said things sober that we can't tolerate nowadays, like Lagerfeld, but maybe it's hard to compare. I think it is hard to compare because, like I was saying, Galliano, a lot of his mishaps weren't really sober though. Like there are some things that he did that were sober, but they're not as bad as like what he got fired for. So it's really not it's not the same thing. I don't really see it as the same thing. And this is also true too. Also, Galliano doesn't have a Hail Hitler song. So yeah, I don't know why people try to compare Gallianos. I don't think it's the same thing at all. To be fair, I actually don't think it's similar. Um, yeah, I don't think it's similar at all. There's a reason why certain countries choose the practice of rehabilitation over total penalization. People can be changed. People do change. And it's not like we're not holding him accountable, but at the end of the day, he has held himself accountable and taken the necessary steps. I do, because even in my video where I was reviewing his documentary, I did think that a lot of his friends, like people like Naomi Campbell and stuff, they gave him a bit too much leeway because ultimately he's still an adult and it's still his decision to do drugs. It's still his decision to drink alcohol. Like as an adult, you're supposed to know if you can't handle something, you should stop it. Because people have different reactions to certain things. So I did think they were giving him too much leeway and they weren't really holding him accountable the way that he's probably held himself accountable. So I was definitely very critical of that. So yeah, I hope that they show all his eras throughout the decades. Me too. Me too. Me too. Me too. Uni says meeting with the rabbis is not enough. A major public apology, like we think of pro-Semitism with Galliano, is a requisite for public acceptance. Okay, you're talking about Kanye. Fair enough. Diagnose this, diagnose that, manage it, and be an adult. Like I can't speak for anyone else, but me personally, I've never been drunk in my life, and that's a choice. Like we're adults. Like when you're an adult, you have a choice. If when you get drunk, you know you get blackout drunk and you don't have control of your surroundings, or you know that when you drink alcohol you get aggressive, then you need to, as an adult, decide maybe I shouldn't be drinking. And if as an adult you don't make that decision, and then one day you drink a lot and then you punch someone and then you end up arrested, that's your fault as an adult because you didn't take responsibility for your actions previously and realize that you shouldn't be drinking because of the response that drinking brings out of you. So that's all part of being an adult. I think people sometimes when it does come to those things, people give too much leeway around those things. So yeah, I think balance can be given to both things. True, I've been sober for years for that very reason. It's a choice. 100% it's a choice. Look at the likings of Donatella Versace. She was a big drug addict. She could get out, and so did Galliano eventually. 100% agreed. 100% agreed. So yeah, those are my, quick thoughts on the John Galliano Met Gala is what we're going to call it. I'm very much looking forward to it and, what's going to happen. Hopefully it's a moment to really celebrate the work of Galliano, for sure. So yeah, moving on to the next topic. Something I did want to talk about is Loro Piana, because I think that, Loro Piana, and someone is saying having an addiction is not a choice, it's a disease. You can try to change, but you don't. That's that. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. This, before I get into the next topic, this is not taking responsibility, because if you're addicted to cigarettes, at one point you had to choose to smoke cigarettes. So that's a choice. How is that not a choice? If you're addicted to drinking alcohol, at one point you had to choose, like, no one opened your mouth and stuffed alcohol down your throat. Same thing with cigarettes. No one like took a cigarette, put it in your mouth, and then lit it and said, I'm going to kill you if you don't smoke this cigarette. So a lot of addictions are very much avoidable. Like, we know that a lot of things, like, let's say alcohol, there's no net benefit to your health, only negatives. We know that drugs, same thing. We know that smoking, same thing. So you have all this information to, like, very much available to you. So if you decide to do it and then you get addicted to it, that you have to take responsibility for that. How can you say it's like a disease and you don't have a choice? That is like crazy to me. That's the kind of thinking that makes people abusive. That's the kind of thinking that, like, people that drink alcohol and become abusive are like, it's not my fault. It's like, it's not me, it's the alcohol. Like, as an adult, there's a level of personal responsibility you have to take for your actions, to be honest. They're saying what they mean is that you couldn't have fully understood what feeling addicted is going to be like. It's about experience itself, I guess. That's true, but then that's because I've never done drugs in my life, right? That's a choice. And the reason why I've not done drugs in my life is because I can see that it's addictive. And I have friends that, well, not friends, but I have friends of friends that have died from doing drugs. So I don't really see, the net positive of it. That's a choice. As an adult, I've chosen never to do drugs. That's a personal choice that any adult can have. If you choose to do drugs and then you get addicted, who else is to blame? Like, I don't understand. Like, what? You chose to do that. Who else is to blame for that, if not you? I don't really understand that. I'm talking from a medical point of view. You're talking from a philosophical. I'm not really talking from a philosophical point of view, though, because, like, if you know something has, like, we know that cigarettes are addictive, for example. So if you choose to do it going in knowing that it could be addictive, if you get addicted, who is to blame for that? I don't understand that. Addiction is partially genetic, though. Some people smoke a cigarette once and are immediately addicted. I thankfully don't have that gene, but no friends who do. But once again, like I've been saying earlier, we all know, like, you cannot tell me that we didn't know that cigarettes are addictive. Where some people can get away with it, but ultimately we know that if you smoke a cigarette, there's a chance that you could be addicted to it. So if you then become addicted to it, who is to blame for that's what I'm really asking is, like, who is to blame? Who takes responsibility for that? If I did drugs and then I killed someone, who is to blame? Am I just going to say, are people just going to say, well, you're addicted, it's not your fault? Like, I don't understand. Like, where is the personal ownership for your own actions? I don't understand that. Someone said some people have certain predispositions and associations that make them more susceptible to addictive responses, but we're still responsible for our actions and our environments. Okay, some people are saying addiction is not about blame. Addiction is not. No, but we're talking about accountability. That's the conversation we're having. We're talking about taking personal responsibility for your actions, addiction or not. There has to still be a level of like personal accountability, regardless. And John Galliano understands this, which is why John Galliano, when he was dismissed from Dior, he understood that the only way to come out of this is to, you know, try to overcome my addiction to alcohol, because if I go back to it and I'm not sober, these are the kinds of things I do when I'm under the influence. So for someone like me, I'm not the kind of person that can drink alcohol and just chill out. I'm going to do crazy things, so I have to stop doing it entirely, essentially. Foxy Cinnamon says, I had addiction to drugs, drinking, gambling in my family. So I experimented when younger, but stopped when I was in an intense university and stopped drinking because not 25 anymore. That's fair enough. It's not your fault, but it's your responsibility to get better and make amends. Agreed. Agreed. And I agree with this too. It's a disorder, but choices reduce aversion to substance. And this is why I hate a lot of influencers and brands that try making cigarettes and alcohol a cool thing, because kids get addicted and kids aren't to blame, and getting over it is hard. Yeah, definitely. If you're a kid, because obviously I'm talking about adults, not necessarily children, because when we talk about children, it's a bit different, because children, if you're underage, there has to be a level of safeguarding around children, right? That's why, children aren't considered adults in the court of law. They're not convicted like they're adults, because there's an understanding that there's a level of personal responsibility that they can't take when you're underage, because your brain isn't even fully developed yet. So it's very different from being an adult. But yeah, if we're talking about kids, it's completely different conversation entirely. Completely different conversation. But yes, you need to take responsibility and search for help, because no one can force you to get over addiction. 100%. Initially, it's a choice, but once the person is wrapped up in the addiction, they aren't in their right mind. Agreed. I definitely agree with this too. I think once you're within the addiction, then your actions are partially because of the addiction itself. But my argument is like, as an adult, certain things are addictive. So, if you decide to partake in those things and then get addicted, it's now your responsibility to, get past that addiction, because it's the same choice that you used that caused that addiction to start in the first place. Mm-mm-mm. This is not the same thing. It's not the same thing as you're poor because you choose to be poor. No, it's not the same thing. It's really not the same thing. The factors that it takes to choose not to drink alcohol, to choose not to do drugs, is completely different to the factors that it takes to come out of poverty. Like, to try and compare those two things is like ludicrous, to be very honest with you. Like, that's insane to try and like compare those two things. They're not even remotely comparable, in like not even close. um, like you can literally just choose, I'm not going to drink alcohol. You can choose, I'm never going to do drugs. You can't just wake up and choose, I want to come out of poverty now. Like, they're not the same thing. But yeah, moving on. Moving on. Um, I wanted to talk about Loro Piana, and I wanted to have, a conversation around consumerism and where luxury is in terms of consumerism, especially these days. And I thought that a really good thing to illustrate it would be talking about the Loro Piana scarf handle, to be honest, because it's like, it's very, I think it's just very indicative of where we are in terms of luxury fashion and just the luxury landscape in fashion right now. So for people that don't know, this handle has gone really viral on social media recently, mainly because it's $600 for a handle and people are completely outraged about it. Personally, I think it's not that crazy, the price, because it is Loro Piana and it's a luxury brand, and luxuries are not necessities. So the kind of people that buy into Loro Piana don't really care about the price. It could be 2,000, it wouldn't really matter. So I don't think the price is necessarily something that I personally find contentious. But I just think the conversation around it is something that I found really funny. But essentially, it's called the foulard handle. That word essentially just means like scarf in French. And they do have their collection of scarves. So they essentially designed a handle that you buy and then you separately buy a scarf and then it turns into sort of a scarf bag. Now, this is something I've seen loads of different places. I've seen many different brands do this. I've seen this from the likes of Hermes in many different iterations. Like Hermes has done, like they have like these versions, for example, they have the silk scarf bags. They have women who, use the furoshiki technique with Hermes silk scarves to make their bags. For people that don't really know what furoshiki is, it's this Japanese technique where they use cloth to essentially make bags. So all this kind of stuff is not new. The weirdest thing I saw online actually is a lot of people were saying that this is some of the most innovative stuff they've ever seen. And I'm like, innovative? It's just a handle that you can tie a silk scarf to. There's nothing really that innovative about it. Like so many brands have done stuff that's similar or offered, something similar. So I don't really understand the whole frenzy around it, to be very honest. I was almost quite confused about how people were saying, the whole thing is completely innovative. And I think there are also two versions because I think people have kind of mixed up or maybe don't even know that there are two versions. There's this version that's $600 and then there's actually a smooth calfskin version that is actually a lot cheaper, that a lot of people have put in their videos, not realizing the one that people are outraged about is this one, the $600 one. But yeah, I think it's it's quite a niche proposition, even by luxury standards. And it's just funny. I also think that this is smart, and I think that's also something I really wanted to talk about to give Loro Piana some credit. I think this has created a lot of traction for Loro Piana. Loro Piana, before this became viral, the conversation we were having about Loro Piana was their supply chain and all the negative things about their supply chain and all the evidence that has been found about their supply chain. And I think they were really looking from a PR perspective to find a way to overthrow that topic. And I think with this handle, what it was able to do was it was able to take attention away from the negative conversations people are having about Loro Piana at the time. I also think another thing is that this has also brought Loro Piana back into the zeitgeist, and it was also a chance for them to start talking about, the fact that they use vicuna wool and they use all these cashmere goats and all that sort of stuff to really overtake the negative conversation that was happening around the brand. So in that sense, it was really smart. It's something that, because the way that luxury consumers consume is very, like a lot of these consumers have so much disposable income. So when something is trending, they just buy it because it's just like, why not? Especially because $600 to these kind of people is not a lot of money. And so every brand needs an accessory that is accessible-ish, that just sells like crazy, right? And I know next Fashion Week, there are going to be people with this handle getting papped. I already know that. And that's just going to work in Loro Piana's favor, to be honest. So every brand just needs those kind of easy, you don't have to think much, quick to buy, easy to buy, quite accessible items. And I think that's what this is for Loro Piana. Because I can't actually remember before this what famous product Loro Piana has had. Like people talk about Loro Piana in general when they talk about the fabrics and pieces from Loro Piana, but I can't remember a single item of clothing or a single piece from Loro Piana that has actually got mainline traction. Someone said missed opportunity here. You're not naming the real issues, because I've done it so many times before. So I don't really feel the need to do it again. But I've spoken about their supply chain. Like people that watch these streams know I've talked about all the Loro Piana supply chain issues over and over and over again. I think everyone that watches this stream, like when I just mention it, knows what I'm talking about. The loafers, was that like widely adopted? I'm not sure if it was widely adopted, to be honest. Do you think it was a strategic decision to redirect attention? I don't think they strategically made it to redirect attention, but I think once they saw it was gaining traction, then they saw the opportunity to use it to do that. Yes, there are multiple videos actually, multiple videos. Also, there's a TikTok about this whole topic that I found that I thought was really, really good. It's by a content creator called Wadzi Zo, who I thought had a really, really good take about the whole Loro Piana situation. So I'm going to play it now.
As a traditional Japanese cloth has now become a global marketing ploy and resold for copious amounts by luxury brands. This is the Furoshoki bag. The Furoshoki is a traditional Japanese art of wrapping goods. So a good high quality Furoshoki in Japan is roughly between 15 to 30 pounds, while luxury brands like Loro Piana are selling theirs for just shy under 300 pounds. Brands like Hermes are repurposing or reusing like old material and scraps to create.
So quickly, the strap that she just showed, that's 300 pounds, is the smooth version. So this smooth leather version is one version, and the other version is the one that I showed. The one that I showed is actually more expensive than this one. So the smooth one is the more affordable one.
Shy under 300 pounds. Brands like Hermes are repurposing or reusing like old material and scraps to create their Furoshoki bags that range for just under 500 pounds. Loro Piana only sells the leather handle in expectation that consumers will then go and buy a Loro Piana cashmere scarf or a scarf of their choice to create their own Furoshoki bag just after spending 300 pounds. Please drop your comments, thoughts, opinions, and views on the Furoshoki if you know any more details.
So yeah, and what this whole situation really says to me, and what is I find very interesting about this whole thing, is it just shows you and tells you that consumers really want to be marketed to, because so many brands have done this already. Hermes has done this a billion times. Like I said earlier in the stream, the Furoshoki technique is something that has been around for a long time, and Japanese people have been creating, bags out of cloth forever. So it's quite funny that people only adopt it when a marketing team literally tells you that you need to buy a handle to make the same thing. And it just shows you, because everyone, especially a lot of luxury consumers, they think they're so unique and they think they have so much taste, but they just do everything that brands tell them to do, quite literally. They are a brand's wet dream. It's just like, we're going to make this handle, buy it. And people are like, oh my God, this is the most innovative thing I've ever seen. It's just very, very strange. People are able to just take ideas and recreate it themselves while giving back context. Just so refreshing. Someone said, oh God, thankfully it's only 300 pounds. That version is 300 pounds. There's a more expensive version. But that's the same for any fashion era stuff, just resurges every some decades, and that's okay. I definitely think it's okay, but I do also think that because you haven't seen the videos I'm referring to, but a lot of the videos that I saw online were essentially people discussing this handle as if to say the only way to authentically, participate in this trend is to buy the handle and to buy a Loro Piana scarf, when I don't agree at all, because this has been done before. But if you're just someone who's like, oh, this is really fun, let me adopt it, and you can afford it, I think that's completely fine. I think I'm more speaking to people that are saying this is super innovative. There's been people online that are saying that, they've never seen something like this before, and like this is like Loro Piana has done something really innovative, which I would disagree with. Someone said that stuff from brainless people. And this is very true too. The Instagram girlies who are obsessed with literally anything that Hailey Bieber does. That's definitely a thing. Definitely a thing for sure. Definitely a thing. Ryan says, I knew it looked familiar. Very familiar. Very familiar. Definitely done before. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Just kind of wanted to touch on the whole Loro Piana thing because people have been asking me my thoughts, and because I haven't streamed for a while, I just wanted to give my thoughts on that. Next thing we're going to talk about is this article. Now, quite a few of you have DM'd me on Instagram wanting me to cover this article from BOF, which essentially is how luxury lost 50 million consumers. There is a lot of interesting information in this article. I will personally try my best to try and summarize everything that was said in this article. But to be honest, there is really a lot going to when it comes to this article. So essentially, this article essentially looks at reports of markets and customer behavior between 2022 and 2024, and just looking at kind of like luxury consumers and how many there are and how they spend and things like that. And they saw that the luxury consumer base shrank from 400 million luxury consumers worldwide down to 350 million consumers worldwide. So essentially, 50 million people who used to buy luxury goods walked away in the space of 2 years, essentially. And there was also another study in this article, or reference in this article that I looked at, that was really interesting, that is from I think it's November 2025 report, that actually put that number at 340 million consumers. So actually, luxury lost 60 million consumers, which is insane. And it's really just talking about, the different reasons why this actually happened and why luxury lost so many consumers. So before I actually tell you guys the reason why they gave in this article as to why luxury is losing so many consumers, I'm curious to know what the guess is. I think it's quite obvious, but let me see if you guys get the right answer. And no cheating. If you can't go and read the article and then say the answer. Is AI in the picture? Not necessarily. So AI does play a factor, but that's not the main reason. Okay, someone says global warming. Fernanda says price. I think Fernanda's the closest to it. Definitely the closest to it, for sure. Definitely the closest. So essentially, the reason price doesn't match quality, this is close to. So the reason why Ryan is cheating and getting the answer. That's funny. So actually, the reason why is because of inequality, which is quite obvious, right? And essentially, inequality sometimes isn't a bad thing for luxury, because I think luxury is based on aspiration, and luxury is based on actually a level of inequality, to be honest. But the difference between now and inequality from the past is that luxury, and this is something they actually touched on in the article, which I found very interesting, luxury normally has a level of inequality that allows you to feel like it's aspirational to achieve something. A lot of people, when they're younger, they dream of buying that Chanel bag. They aspire to buy the Louis Vuitton trunk. They aspire to have, the Gucci bag. But now, because of how high the prices are, it's gone from an inequality that, pushes aspiration into people to an inequality that is now more a symptom of where society is in general, and the gap between the working class and the upper class, and how the middle class is dwindling into this new working class, essentially. So that's what is extremely different in the current day that hasn't really happened, before. And funny enough, the way that luxury pricing exists now is very counterintuitive, because luxury has never actually been driven by the ultra wealthy. We know that when luxury brands started making a lot of money was when they started selling to, the middle class mainly. because they would sell things like belts and, you guys know the formula. Belts, perfumes, footwear, cheaper accessories like bags, that was the blueprint for making loads of money for a lot of these brands and a lot of conglomerates. But because even now those items are out of reach, there's just not enough customers that, want to pay those prices. And I do find it crazy that a lot of these brands and a lot of these companies don't understand that, and they don't see that. But I guess that's what happens when you focus on increasing profit quarter after quarter after quarter. Something has to give. It's either the price goes up or the quality goes down so you can save money via the supply chain, or you pay employees less, or you start producing in economies where the wages are lower. Eventually you run out of things to do to make even more profit. And then it just you've you've exhausted all things, and then you start to make decisions that are against your bottom line, which is the case in this sense. Someone said the middle class is shrinking. It's going to be only really wealthy or terribly poor. 100%. That is 100% where we are going. Someone earlier said the K-shaped economy, which is 100% facts. 100% K-shaped economy. So that is the main reason why luxury recently has been losing so many customers. Because there was a time in fashion when, you would get that promotion and you could buy the Chanel bag. You would, have a good year and you want to mark the occasion by buying a luxury good, and that would signal that things are going well for you. And, you would buy something that you like and you've always aspired to buy. And that is really what kept the luxury fashion industry running for all these years. And that kind of thinking just does not exist because of how expensive a lot of stuff is. And it's crazy because I think in this article, there was a stat that I read that said essentially the top 2% of spenders now account for 45% of all luxury purchases, which is up from 35% back in 2011, which is absolutely insane. And that tells you the kind of luxury market that we're in, that the top 2% of spenders account for 45% of all luxury purchases. That lets you know that the middle class is just not buying luxury the way that they used to, because, no one can afford it. People are struggling to pay rent. People are struggling to pay their electricity bills. People are struggling to pay their heating, especially if you live in a very, cold climate. People just don't have the disposable income that they once had. And when you couple that with an insane spike in luxury prices, that is kind of where you end up, to be honest. So, we've talked about the why. We've talked about kind of what's going on. But then also what is going on in the other end? What are brands doing to fix this? What are brands doing to, change this across the board? And what are brands doing to kind of change their situation? And we've seen, for example, the likes of Burberry, who changed their CEO and they reduced prices. And that's one thing that a lot of brands are doing now, where they have realized that the prices don't make sense and they reduced prices. Now, what I want to know, what I find really fascinating actually, is that and this is something I find really fascinating about luxury and just luxury brands in general, because Burberry, and I've spoken about Burberry so many times before, right? I've spoken about Burberry so many times. Burberry, they brought in a CEO who essentially hired Daniel Lee because they wanted to make Burberry the new Bottega, and it did not work because they increased the prices in a crazy amount and they didn't understand who their customer base was, and they didn't essentially understand who their market was. So that didn't work. They almost got kicked off the FTSE 100. They were losing share prices. It was disaster at Burberry. They essentially hired a new CEO. And I'm sure you guys that are, on this right now, I've talked about Burberry CEO quite a few times. Burberry CEO, his name is Joshua Schulman. He was actually formerly at places like, I think he worked at Coach, he's worked at Michael Kors. And so when you think of Coach and Michael Kors and the way that they operate, they do a lot of cost cutting measures, that's kind of how they operate. So he came in, he cut a lot of the prices, he changed a lot of things with the supply chain, and then their share prices started to go up, and he essentially fixed the issues that Burberry was having. Now, what I find really fascinating about Burberry is, what does that say about luxury, that a brand can just increase and reduce prices at will? What does that say about what it's actually worth, or what the price should actually be? What does that say about that? And that was what I found most fascinating, more so than anything else about it. I'm like, what does that really say? Like, if I was a Burberry consumer that bought Burberry, what would that say to me, that a brand could just one day decide that this should cost 2K, and then turn around, a new CEO comes in, now it costs 1.2? I would not want to buy the brand, because can you imagine if you bought something before the new CEO came in for like 2.5K, and then all of a sudden it retailed for less all of a sudden? I would be livid. I would be so mad about that. So it's almost kind of exposes the luxury pricing structure, that they were just able to do that just overnight, right? And I kind of find it crazy. I think they should have doubled down and just froze the prices for a really, really long time, rather than start cutting some of the prices, because then what that does is it just exposes their pricing strategy, and it creates distrust. Like someone said, huge distrust, right? So that was something I was just like, why would they do that? Why would they do that? Why would they actually do that? I think luxury houses bet on growing clients in developing markets kind of backfired. 100%. That is also very much true. And I think luxury, because China became the big cash cow, and I know we talk about this all the time, but there was a point in time when a lot of luxury brands are really struggling because China had a massive economic crisis. So all the consumers that would normally buy all the luxury goods, they didn't have that disposable income in China as well. So that's why a lot of these, luxury brands were really struggling. Another reason why luxury has lost a lot of consumers is because people now prefer, especially younger people, now prefer to spend their money on experiences over luxury. And the reason is because luxury is now out of reach for a lot of people, but a lot of people still feel like, experiences, at least kind of like you have that. You can always think about, you have your pictures, that's kind of what you can do. And there are many, many reports on this. I've talked about this in streams in the past, at the literal percentages of people who now prefer to go on holiday or to travel to different places or to invest more in experiences that they have over buying luxury goods. Now, I think if the prices were more accessible, this wouldn't be the case, and we wouldn't see people trending towards, prioritizing just experiences in general over luxury. The only collections that really stand out for Daniel Lee at Burberry is when he does autumn winter shows. When he does spring summer, that's when he brings in his Bottega aesthetic. That's true, to be honest. That's very, very true. Outlets do that for me. Why was something 5K in store and then 2.2K in outlet? That's understandable, because it just couldn't sell. So at some point they have to cut their losses. That is understandable. But I think it's even more insane, and it's even more understandable when the retail price is reduced. Like, that's insane. That's actually insane. Fernanda says, people also aren't making families, etc. No kids equals more flexibility for traveling. When you are more settled, you buy more stuff because you can't travel so much. Very good point. Very, very good point. And I also think that there's also a big move anyway to not have kids because of the economy. And it's just very unaffordable to have kids in this economy. Like, I don't even know when. I definitely want kids at some point, but it's just not going to happen anytime soon, because in this economy, I do not want to bring a child into this world to like suffer. So it's just, yeah, the economy affects, and can you imagine having a child with the luxury prices now? This is why like so many consumers aren't buying luxury. Can you imagine having a kid in this economy and then trying to indulge in luxury? Like how? Unless you're just stinkingly rich, there's just no way. Someone said I'd be fuming if they released a new item cheaper. However, I think it would go over better. Makeup slash skincare and perfume is doing better. I think because of this. Agreed. Agreed. Gotta be rich to have kids. 100%. 100%. And Zara is definitely luxury. This is something that I've been talking about for a while now, but because of the likes of Shein and ultra luxury, a lot of luxury brands are now essentially shifting. A lot of fast fashion brands are now shifting into middle tier luxury. So that's why you see Zara, for example, they're hiring people like John Galliano. They're collaborating with the likes of Willy Chavarria. They're collaborating with Stefano Pilati. They're collaborating with Samuel Ross from the likes of A Cold War. They're collaborating with Ludovic de Saint-Saëns. You have H&M staging in massive shows at London Fashion Week, at different fashion weeks. They're investing in their more expensive line, like H&M Studio, Zara Studio. They're all investing a lot in their more luxury lines. So I do think that in 10, 15, 20 years, especially because a lot of luxury brands now, their price points are so out of reach, I definitely think a lot of fast fashion brands are 100% kind of trying to take that market and try to enter that market. And it sounds crazy dystopian, I know, but I do think we could exist in a world in 20 years or so where fast fashion brands now, the likes of Uniqlo, Zara, H&M, these are brands that are going to be seen as literal luxury in 20 years from now. If you think of where the price point is of, or the price point that these fast fashion brands are trying to enter into, it's insane. It's actually insane, to be honest. Sassy says luxury conglomerates are also really focused on optimizing strategies to maintain the 2% of luxury clients that they have. The aspiration gets further and further every day. Yeah, so their strategy, from what I've understood, and going back to the article, and why brands are actually like doubling down on this. So their strategy is that they believe that if they can just hold on to those 2% of consumers that are responsible for 45% of spending, if they increase the prices to crazy amounts, so long as they maintain that 2%, buying 45% of luxury, they're going to make more money in the long run, is their thinking. Because that 2% have so much disposable income, it doesn't matter what the price is, they're still going to buy into it. That's the assumption that a lot of luxury brands are making. Now, I'm curious to see 5 years from now, 10 years from now, if they still think that way, because I don't think it's going to work the way that these luxury brands think it's going to work, to be very honest. COVID got people comfy. Zara's heiress Marta Ortega Perez says Zara is a long way from wanting to be a luxury brand with ambition to create a well-made product that reaches the maximum number of people. Yeah, so what Zara wants to do and what H&M is doing, it's kind of like a two-pronged effect. So they will still have their fast fashion line that appeals to everyone and touches as many consumers as possible, but then they have their, their atelier and their studio lines that is then what people see as luxury. So the way that people buy COS now, the way people are like, I want something slightly higher quality, I'm going to go to COS, even though it's still H&M, really. That's kind of what they want their atelier and studio lines to be in a few years. So when people are like, I want something a bit more expensive, a bit higher quality, a bit more luxury, rather than going to a cheaper line of a luxury brand or going to an outlet for a luxury brand, people instead will look to the Zara more luxurious lines or the H&M more luxurious lines. So they're essentially going to have two markets at once. They're trying to capture two markets at once, essentially, is what they're doing. And this is a good point, like Zach Posen at Gap, exactly. Because the whole reason that Zach Posen is at Gap is because they wanted him to leverage Gap to make red carpet looks and to make custom looks for the red carpet and build out that more luxurious side of Gap, essentially, which is they're already doing anyway. That's a big reason why John Galliano is at Zara as well. That's why we saw John Galliano design a custom piece for Stevie Nicks. It's kind of that understanding too, where they open sort of a Zara atelier where you can get custom red carpet looks made at Zara. So all these things are in the works. All these things are going to be happening. Luxury is not about heritage either. It's about convincing people objects have value, which is very subjective. Gold is worth a lot because we decided. I think we all realized that eventually. Yeah, 100%. Like, the reason why gold is worth a lot is because our money is backed by gold. But our money being backed by gold is only that way because someone decided that gold is the best measure to back, our money with. If someone turned around and convinced everyone to back our money with soil, then soil would be really expensive and gold wouldn't be as expensive. So it is kind of like a construct, to be honest, but it works because it's a construct that everyone agrees with and it's universal. So that's the same thing with, I don't know, anything else, like luxury. It's kind of the value that we put onto it. Yeah, gold is also needed for electronics, 100%. Gold wouldn't lose value because we need it. Oh no, it definitely would lose value because we need gold, but we don't. If our money wasn't backed by gold, the value would definitely go down significantly. Like, one of the massive reasons why gold is as big as it is as valuable as it is, and it keeps rising, especially recently, is because of that. If our money isn't backed by gold, it would still be valuable, but gold is not so rare that like it's just going to be this ultra valuable, expensive thing. But we definitely need it for a lot of things, like in technology, in a lot of things, to be fair, and construction, in a lot of things. None of this stuff is truly intrinsically valuable, 100%. 100%. But gold is also rare. The currency can't be unlimited. That's what luxury should be. Yeah, but gold is not, like I said, it's not so rare that like if gold didn't back our money, it would still be as valuable. Like in fact, the majority reason why gold is worth what it is because it's tied to our money. If you remove that whole thing, like the value of gold crashes completely. Scarcity makes gold rare. Why Bitcoin mimics gold rare? I think also something you need to also remember, or I guess consider, is that when it comes to the value of gold and the value of gold increasing, even in recent times, I was literally reading a report about this not too long ago. But one of the reasons why gold has been increasing in value a lot, especially recently, is because there's a lot of distrust around the dollar. So I don't want to turn this into a financial stream, but I guess it's really important because we're talking about luxury and blah, blah, blah. So because of the political climate of the world, the universal currency that backs every other currency is the dollar. And there's a lot of distrust in the dollar because Donald Trump has like put all these tariffs in place and then he decides not to do it and then he brings them back and then he decides to. So there's already like a lot of people that work in financial markets don't have the same trust in the dollar that they used to have because the value of it's too volatile. The value can change at any time. Trump can choose to change the tariffs at any time. And then also China is working actively to undermine the fact that the dollar is the universal currency that we all kind of understand is the base currency that we use. And so because of those two main reasons, a lot of people have put less trust in the dollar and more trust in gold. So more people are investing their money into gold. And so because more people are investing their money into gold, it's demand and supply. So that the value of gold is going because people don't trust the value of the dollar and don't trust the dollar long term, they trust gold more. So more people, especially recently, have invested in gold. Hence why the value is going up a lot. And that's because there's a connection to the dollar and gold. And because our money is backed by gold, once again. So if you just break that whole construct, it's a totally different conversation we're having. Yeah, because the value is not about rarity, it's a construct. Exactly what I'm saying. Like the price of gold is not necessarily as expensive as it is because it's rare. It's because of the value that we've put on gold being like a safe store of money, but that's because we've constructed a value of money on gold. Like we could turn around and put that same value on something else. Roughly 216,000 tons of gold have been mined, with about 64,000 tons of reserves left underground. I also wonder how much gold is just like lost, because I can imagine, especially in olden days, when there were wars because of gold, right? Like people would, because literally there were whole empires that used to pillage, nations and take all their gold and then put it on a ship and go back to their country, and then on their way to their country, pirates would intercept their boat and try to steal the gold, and like so many wars, right? And so because of that, there's probably a lot of gold just under the sea. There's probably so much gold unaccounted for that's just in the sea, which is such a waste. But yeah, because when we've mined all the gold that we have, I wonder if we're gonna have the technology to like actually go deep in the sea and like actually start extracting all the gold that we lost in stupid wars and stupid conflicts. The colonizers were after that gold and the pirates were out there bag snatching. 100%. 100%. That's why lots of people spend crazy money searching for sunken old ships. Yeah, 100%. Because all you need is to find a sunken ship that just has stupid amounts of gold, and you could be a millionaire overnight. So I just wonder how that's going to. That's such a random thought, but it just came to my mind. It honestly just came to my mind. Nearly three-quarters of all known gold has already been extracted. As new discoveries become rarer and mining costs rise, the focus increasingly shifts to recycling and improving recovery technology. Yeah, 100%, which is why I was like, I believe eventually there's going to be more investment into how can we extract the gold that we already have, like the gold that's under the sea, the gold that's, in just random places because of wars and stuff like that. Not if you're British, then it belongs to the king. I think you just don't tell the king about it. So if you find gold underground, I think just don't tell His Majesty, because His Majesty, that these guys are greedy. Do you know in the UK? I'm not sure how many. I don't know how it works in America. Americans, you guys can tell me in the chat. But in the UK, just imagine this: if if I die and I have assets and I don't have kids and siblings, do you know that my like everything I own just goes to the crown? Do you know how insane that is? Like they don't even spend time trying to figure out or trying to find maybe if I had a friend or someone I was close to that could take my assets. Nope. They're just going to be like no next of kin, no wife, it's going to the crown. That's how the UK works. So best believe that if I find a sunken ship with gold, I'm not telling anyone. And I'm going to sell the gold very slowly so it won't be detected. Like no one's going to find out that I found some crazy amount of gold. It'll just all be in my house, like hidden away in my house. And then every like 4 months, I'll maybe sell a bit of gold. And then by the end of like 20 years, I'll be like a millionaire and people will be like, oh, he's just been selling gold. He's a gold merchant, but no one would know where I got the gold from. This has definitely not already happened. That's definitely not already happened. Okay, so that's the standard in many countries. I didn't know that. I just know because I live in the UK. I know that to be the case in the UK. So I think the crown, they already get so much stuff. They get so much money. Like, why, just because of the family that you're born into, why should you be entitled to so many people's assets and investments? And like a lot of taxpayer money goes to the crown as well. So I think they have enough already. They don't need some of my gold that I found under the water. Oh my god, that's funny. Yeah, obviously I was being simplistic about it, but it does go to the crown. Like if they can't, and it's not even like if they can't find someone to give it to, it's more the case that it has to be obvious, and if it's not obvious, then that's when that happens, which happens quite a lot, to be honest. Could we also get a fashion-related markets breakdown one of these days? Yeah, I mean, it could be interesting to talk about, especially because I think what's going on with Kering is really important, or interesting at least, in terms of Demna's impact on, Gucci's revenue leveling out and no longer reducing quarter on quarter. So that's definitely an interesting conversation to have. And then also, so much stuff I think is going on in fashion business, like Prada and Versace, and like what's going on with Kering and Demna's impact on Kering financially. So yeah, that's definitely a thing that we can talk about at some point. I honestly wonder how Prada Group is so successful. Because they have a lot of verticals. Like they have a lot of things that they sell, and a lot of it makes stupid amounts of money. And also, they have brands like Miu Miu that produces some of the worst quality clothing you've ever seen in your life, and they sell cotton t-shirts for $800, and for some reason, people still buy it. So that's why Prada Group makes so much money. And they do have good investments. Like I think Prada Group owns Churches, the footwear brand, and I actually like that brand. So they also do invest in like good companies and good businesses. Like it's yeah, they do good business. They do good business. But anyway, yeah, that's us talking about why luxury is losing a lot of consumers. It's just an interesting conversation, to be honest, about kind of like the markups and why luxury is only cares about their upper class consumers. And I think a lot of these luxury brands too, to close, are really understanding that ultimately they have to cater to who has the money. And considering the way the economy is going and the fact that the middle class is dwindling by the second, they're like, well, we just have to cater to the upper class because the working class definitely won't be able to afford our products, and they've picked their side essentially. Versace's new creative direction is also an interesting topic. Yeah, for sure, definitely. I still justice for Dario Vitale, but I definitely. I didn't know about Prada owning churches. Yeah, I believe they do. Right? Let me Google it. 1 second. Um, I think they do. Yeah, they do. Prada Group owns Churches, the famous English luxury shoemaker. Yes, even on the Prada Group website, yeah, as one of their brands, Churches. So yeah, they very much do own Churches. So yeah, they do good business. They do good business. Like when you look at a lot of these groups, you'll be surprised all the brands that they own, and all the companies that these brands acquire over time. It's like insane when you look at it. Dario Vitale did a great job. A lot of people didn't understand the vision. Yeah, 100%. I always backed Dario Vitale's vision. But it makes sense why they fired him. I'm not sure if you guys in the chat know the story of why they fired him, but if you don't, then I'll tell you guys quickly and then we can move into the next topic. But I've definitely spoken about it a few times at this point. No, they didn't own a real parish. I meant the brand churches, not they actually own churches. That's hilarious. That's funny. Miu Miu has such good styling, but it's all merch. The non-merch stuff is insanely expensive. Agreed. Agreed. And I do like what they do with footwear, and their footwear collabs are really nice. Prada seems to have a handle on the relationship between craftsmanship and commerce, however crafty that is. Do we own anything anymore here in Britain? Not really. Not really. Even Hermes like owns legacy footwear makers in Britain. Like, yeah, not really. We don't own a lot of things in Britain. But that's understandable. I think people need to understand that Britain is a tiny market. I think Texas is probably bigger than the whole of the UK. So when you consider that, the UK market or even the UK economy as a whole, it's not really worth that much because there's just not much here. It's not that big of a market. And outside the financial markets, because London is like a big financial hub for the world, outside of that, there isn't that much money in the UK, to be honest, compared to places like the USA or places like China. So yeah. But okay, people want the Dario Vitale tea. Okay, I'll give you guys the tea. So actually, a big reason why a big reason why this article basically explains it. This article was about this situation. When did it come out? In December 2025. So essentially, Dario Vitale was a design director at Miu Miu. He did insane work. He was doing really well. This is when Miu Miu was growing at an unprecedented rate, probably the fastest growing brand in luxury fashion at the time. And essentially, Dario Vitale left Miu Miu to get the job at Versace. So to read the article, I'm just going to highlight the part that I'm reading. As it says in the article, Vitale previously worked closely with Miuccia Prada as design director of Miu Miu. His exit in late 2024 created an unwelcome hiccup for Miu Miu, which was powered growth for Prada Group in recent years and was already digesting the succession of Mrs. Prada, longtime deputy Fabio Zambonardi. So basically, Dario Vitale leaving Miu Miu affected them. And they didn't like it because at the time Miu Miu was making a lot of money for Prada Group. So because of that, they essentially said that if he leaves Miu Miu and takes the Versace job, they're not convinced that he's the right person for the job. And in a situation where they buy Versace, they are going to fire him. And so that's what they did. They bought Versace and then they fired him. And then they hired Pietro Muglia as the creative director, which is insane. But like, it's kind of salty, kind of crazy. But they did warn him. I guess he just kind of assumed that maybe they wouldn't be able to buy Versace or the deal wouldn't go through. But it went through and they fired him as promised. But justice for Dario Vitale though. That's crazy. But yeah, like it says, to read the BOF article, once again, it says, more importantly, Prada's leadership seemed unconvinced that he was ready to jump from a behind-the-scenes role to a highly visible creative directorship, or that his taste was a match for their 1.25 billion euro acquisition. In multiple investor calls and public appearances, CEO Andrea Guerrera sidestepped questions about whether the company's leaders were eager to reunite with Vitale at the helm of Versace. So, yeah, just like people are saying, you take the chance and you win or lose. 100%. 100%. But I did like his vision. His vision was really cool. I know some people didn't really like it. I liked it. I'm a lover of fashion from when I was younger. When I was younger, fashion was so vast. Like every brand looked different. Every brand had a unique point of view. I really hate this sort of quiet luxury economy that we live in, where every brand just kind of looks like some sort of Phoebe Philo, Lemaire-esque brand, is really annoying and it's really boring and uninspiring. So I like that he was looking at, 70s and 80s inspired aesthetics and trying to create a world around that. And even a lot of people that I saw didn't like this collection at first. Once it started to hit editorials, a lot of people started to warm to the collection, which was interesting to observe. But the editorials definitely did this justice, and it's cool. I just really wanted to see how Dario Vitale would develop this aesthetic long term, because that is kind of what Versace is, right? Versace is very much about excess, and it's about partying, and it's about this jet set lifestyle. It's not supposed to be chic. It's not that kind of brand. And I think Dario found that perfect balance. But yeah, you win some and you essentially lose some, essentially. So yeah. Now, the last conversation and the last topic I really wanted to cover in this stream is this whole JD Sports Yeezy deal, because I just think it's very interesting, because we've been talking about fashion business and kind of what's going on the business side of fashion. And I think talking about stuff that has happened recently, I think this deal is something really, really interesting to talk about. So just to kind of talk about what's been going on the 13th of August, I believe, Yeezy footwear went on sale via JD Sports and Finish Line stores across the United States. And within roughly an hour of the launch, a lot of the lineup had been sold out, essentially. And it really just talks to the demand that is still around products designed by Yeezy, the brand, and Ye, obviously, as a person, like Kanye West. And it really says that even though people say he's cancelled and he's this and he's that, he still moves the needle when it comes to selling products. And why I find this really interesting is we saw Ye with Gap and his collaboration that he wanted to create with Balenciaga. We've seen how that ended up. Now, I wonder if we saw even his partnership with Adidas and how that went sour. I wonder if another brand is going to work with Ye and take the chance on Ye. That's what I'm really interested in, because I think this whole deal with JD Sports has shown that the demand for his products is really, really there. So I'm just really curious to see kind of how does that, develop, considering how the Adidas partnership went left, how the Gap partnership went left, like completely. Because the Adidas partnership was insane. Like they lost, it was $250 million of damage in 2022 when it comes to their net income, just because of the termination of the partnership between Kanye West and Adidas. And like, I remember at the time for Q1 of 2023, they were just like, yeah, we're just telling shareholders now we're going to have a loss of 400 million euros. Just like prepare for it. And that's crazy that one person can cause that, to be honest. What I want to see from Kanye West is more of a focus on D2C. Because Kanye West, a lot of the years, like if you guys remember that really viral moment where he was like, you don't have the answers, Sway. That kind of reminds me of Kanye West always feeling like he needed support from the powers that be successful in the fashion industry. And I don't believe that to be the case. I think he's so influential. I think he's so popular. I think he's so so many people look to him for inspiration that I honestly think if he focused on D2C, he would like make a lot more money. And I genuinely think that, people are really willing to buy a lot of his stuff. And yeah, these are some of the items that went on sale and sold out at JD Sports across the United States of America. You have mainly a lot of different slide silhouettes. There was a kind of like a modular heel version that I saw. They have something called the Yeezy Bully sneaker that they're really focusing on. It kind of just looks very much kind of within that realm of the Yeezy aesthetic that we've gotten very used to. Yeah, these are the heels. So this is kind of like the kind of all one piece heel. And a lot of his, I guess, a lot of what he's designing, they tend to look like these 3D printed, like everything is one piece silhouette, which means that it's very easy to produce these kind of things. You can produce them really fast. They're easy to replicate. And I think from a business perspective, that makes your job a whole lot easier. Like these Yeezy heels are very easy to make. They're not easy to design. The difficult part is the design, but once you've designed them, you just keep printing them, essentially. I knew exactly that you were going to say that, referring to the clip. Like, why does he not have the confidence to do it himself? Yeah, I don't think it's a confidence thing. I will say, I do think that the fashion business is very hard. I just think that most people don't have the means or the infrastructure or access to the people to do D2C worldwide in a way that's efficient. But I honestly think that Kanye West does. And that's why I would really like to see him focus more on D2C, because I think that honestly, it's just the new frontier. Like, why doesn't he try to do that? Why does he always think that he has to latch onto certain retailers or latch onto certain companies to achieve what he needs to achieve? And also, if he does his own thing, then he doesn't have to worry about contracts being terminated, right? Because when you think of what happened at Gap or what happened at Adidas and his tendency to just do crazy shit all the time, like if he was doing his own thing, then it doesn't really matter. I suppose it's great to have a partner who knows what they're doing as it pertains to operations and manufacturing. Yeah, 100%. You can watch former entertainment lawyer videos breaking down leaked recordings and apparel agreements. Are you talking about specifically for Kanye West? Or are you talking about just in general? His vision for anti-exclusivity and military/workwear was 20 years ahead. I love so much that he hates luxury and gatekeeping. Exclusivity is the new N-word. That is something, because I will say a lot of people promise consumers things and they say certain things. There was one time, this is at the height of the hype of Kanye West and Yeezy, and it was really hard to get a hold of. It was super expensive on the secondhand market. And I remember at the time, Kanye West said that his goal is to make Yeezy accessible to the everyday person. And so I like that he actually did do that. Since he said that, he's been releasing a lot of the old stuff and making it more accessible. And it's so funny how, and this is how I know that a lot of people don't really like fashion. They like hype, and they like, the signals that wearing certain things signify. Because when Kanye West started to make a lot of Yeezys more accessible, then you had people saying, oh, Yeezys are dead. I wouldn't wear Yeezys anymore. I don't like Yeezys. And I'm like, but you were just wearing Yeezys. So that means you didn't like the design. That means you bought it because of the hype. And now that it's more accessible, all of a sudden you don't like it. And I find people like that really fascinating to like just observe, because it's so funny. That's like, you're literally exposing yourself. That means you didn't like the design. You're just angry because other people have it. Like, why does that matter? Like, I like Vans. Many people have Vans. That's not going to stop me from wearing my Vans because I like Vans. Like, what else do I like that everyone has? I like Converses, like All Stars, like the low top versions. I wear them all the time. So many people have Converse All Stars. Is that going to stop me from wearing them? Nope. So I just don't understand people that think that way. All of a sudden, when something gets hyped, it's like, oh my God, it's no longer good all of a sudden. Yeah. But also look at Dior and Johnny Depp. If you stick to your man during the controversy, it will pay off. But they were too scared, therefore lost billions because they underestimated. Yeah. I mean, that is definitely true. They could have stuck by him and they could have weathered the storm. That is definitely true, to be honest. Same, like, there's so many things that came in and out of fashion and now are coming back, and I'm still not convinced. I feel like I'm wrong, but it's just not my thing. That's funny. but yeah, the whole Yeezy deal, I just find it really interesting because I just think it's so interesting that regardless of all the stuff that we talk about, all the stuff that we say about Yeezy and, everything that, if we think about all the stuff that has happened to Kanye West recently, like for example, he was supposed to headline Wireless Festival. They cancelled his visa. They didn't, like, the Home Office literally denied his visa to the UK. On I remember it was on the grounds that his presence would not be conducive to the public good. That's why they denied him entry. And so that kind of led to the whole Wireless Festival being cancelled. So I'm just quite surprised that this deal even went through, considering everything else that has been happening along the lines. Also, shout out to Benson. I hope you're good. Yeah, the Home Office is very hypocritical, like insane, insane. Like, are you telling me that Kanye West is going to be more of a risk to the public in the UK than many other people that they allow into the country? Of course not. It's just, I think it's politics, right? And this is why like I'm very into politics, but I don't believe in any specific party. That's why I have a tendency to like vote for different parties in every election. So like in the last election, I voted Labour, and then the election before I voted Liberal Democrat. I think my views and my values align more closely with Liberal Democrats than Labour, but I didn't agree with the manifesto of the last Liberal Democrat, so that's why I voted Labour. But either way, I don't believe in any party. I just believe that politicians are politicians and they're all corrupt. And the thing about politicians is that they do things for political gain. So there could be a literal serial killer that they allow into the country, but then Kanye West is a story. So it creates spectacle. And so that's why the Home Office would latch onto that, because that's what politics is. It's about spectacle. It's not about actually change, or it's not about moving things forward. That's not what politicians are about. Politicians are about spectacle and about doing these big things. Like in the background, they're not really doing anything, but then they do this like big thing and then it becomes a news story. That's kind of how politicians are, and that's how they operate. So that's why I don't have any belief in any party. I'm more believe in individuals, and I have to observe each individual separately, basically. So yeah, talking about the Home Office, that's why they did that. But yeah, I would say now my values probably mostly align with the Green Party, but still need to I still need to see kind of where that goes. It just depends. Okay, someone even just said Zach Polanski. Like someone literally just mentioned Zach now. But yeah. And Labour have been compromised. That is very true also. And yeah, let's not even talk about the insider trading. Yeah, don't get me started on politics and politicians. Like I can talk about politics forever. Okay, but you're not voting Tory slash reform. Of course not. um, but I don't know, because once again, I don't inherently believe in parties or individuals. If that, who knows, one year there might be a year where my values align with the Conservatives. Has that happened in the past? No. Do I see a world in which that would happen soon? Probably not. But it just, because there might be someone who's the leader of Conservatives, and now what they're pushing for is completely different to what Conservatives in the past have. And that's the thing. I don't because I think people have this understanding of what Conservatives represent, but then someone could just lead the party and like change what Conservatives represent, right? So it really just depends. It honestly just depends. It really, really just depends. And yeah, Mike is talking about the PPE contract gate. Oh yeah, I remember that. For people that aren't from the UK, when it was Boris Johnson, right? When Boris Johnson was Prime Minister, when the Conservatives were in power, during COVID, he gave a multi-million-dollar contract to his friend to create the PPE essentially for COVID, which is like insane. And also, separate contract, he gave one of his friends the contract for track and trace, which was like this system for our healthcare to kind of like trace people that had COVID and make sure they stay at home and all that sort of stuff. And it was terrible. It was badly mismanaged. The software was awful. It was buggy. It didn't work properly. But that's the thing. That's politics. It's not about who's the best for the job. It's not about like if you're a politician that, you know, if you're a politician that actually cares about your citizens, then you would find the best people to, you know, create that kind of software. You wouldn't just give it to one of your friends. So that's what I'm saying. I find it weird actually that people believe so much in like political parties and politicians and stuff. Like, yeah, they're not to be trusted. Like none of them are to be trusted. I don't trust any politician, to be honest. Even politicians that like I agree with mainly, I'm still like, I still don't trust you. Like you're a politician. Like to get to this point, you must have done some shady things in your life to get to this point. PPE. Oh, they had an incident here in the US. Some people sold fake or uncertified PPE. Damn. That's crazy. That's actually insane. Did you hear Andy Burnham's cabinet has the highest proportion of Oxbridge graduates? Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. It doesn't surprise me at all. I also find it, you know what, let me come off this. We're in after hours. This is for people that are new to these streams. After I'm done talking about the topics, then we enter after hours where I just talk about anything. So I guess now we're talking about politics. So let's talk about politics. The thing about politicians in the UK is that a lot of, let's say, things that they advocate for, it's because they don't. And this is why I say that politics is all about spectacle. It's not really about improving the country, right? Because Andy Burnham, for example, he's proposing more taxes for like the middle class and stuff, which I find very interesting because every politician, they do everything but tax the rich. Like they do everything but tax the rich. Every time they introduce a new tax law or they change something about tax, the only people it affects is the middle class and the working class. Like when they freeze, you know, like the tax bans, that only affects the middle class and the working class. When they put a tax on like property values like they have in London, it only affects the middle class and the working class. So I find it weird when people get so happy when they're like, oh, when they see like a politician that's obviously rich, that's went to Eton, their parents are millionaires, they own 10 plus properties, and then people are praising these politicians for taxing the rich. But it's like, they didn't tax the rich though. They taxed the middle class. That's not taxing the rich. Like a tax on income is taxing the middle class. A tax on assets is taxing rich people. They never tax assets, they tax income. Like people that are rich don't pay tax because they just choose how they get their income and they can control that because they can, I talked about this in the last stream, you can get loans again using your assets as, like you can get asset backed loans and then you can just not pay any income tax. Or you can like pay yourself a certain, you can put all your money in the business and only pay corporate tax and then pay yourself a certain percent. Like working class people and middle class people can't do that. They can't. And not to a significant amount. So I just think everything about politics is about spectacle. Politicians do things that they know that in the news, it makes people happy, but they know in reality it's not going to help people. They know that. And over time of just studying politicians and what they do, I've just known that to be true. So that's why I just I don't have any sort of frenzy and I'm not passionate about any specific politician personally. But it's hard to tax assets. I don't think it's hard to tax assets at all. I think that you can do it two ways. You can either tax income that comes out of assets, which is kind of harder because then people just like make sure that income isn't paid out of assets, or you can do what they're doing in the UK, but I don't agree with it. So what they've done in the UK, let me get the numbers right so I don't misquote. Let me see. Let's see. Property tax. Let me just show you guys. Okay, cool. This is it. This is it. This is it. This is it. I found 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 it. Okay, cool. So in London, recently they introduced kind of like an asset tax. So it's basically called a mansion tax. And essentially what this mansion tax is a council tax surcharge of between 2,500 and 7,500 pounds, which will take effect in April 2028, right? Now, why I find this like mansion tax really odd, because this is basically for properties above £2 million, right? And then based on like how much higher is over 2 million, you pay more. And Andy Burnham basically came in and said he wants to reduce the amount on the mansion tax. Now, why I find this really, really fascinating is because if you look at the property market in London, most young people can't afford to buy houses. And the people that do own houses, it's because they bought house. They're normally like older people, like maybe in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. And it's because buying houses back then was like affordable relative to your income. So a lot of these older people own houses, and that most houses, like I'd say a lot of these people, their houses are around that value, like around that 2 million, like 2.5 million, 3 million. But most of these people don't have an income. Like most of these people aren't like rich people. Like if you bought a house when you were a fireman, when you were in your 20s, and you know now your property is worth 2 million, but you don't even have an active income, and now you're paying this massive council tax, you're probably just going to get forced into selling your house because you can't afford the council tax. And I find it odd because most people that will be close to that 2 million, their property is worth that, paying that high tax that some of them might not be able to afford. That's still not a tax on the rich though, because rich people can just easily like pay a 7,500 tax. And this is what I mean. Like it's a spectacle, because if you don't own a property, which I don't own a property, right? If you see a tax being introduced that seems like it's a tax on the rich because it's a tax on properties that are over, 2 million or higher, it might seem like they're finally taxing the rich, but not really, because most people that, don't really, their property is just worth that, but they don't have a big income, all of them are going to end up, because I know this tax is going to go up, because taxes never go down. So I know this tax is going to go up, and all of them are going to be forced into selling their houses. And guess who's going to buy their houses? Just take one guess who will have the disposable income to start buying off the houses when these people can't afford to keep their house. Who do you think, I'm going to give you guys a moment to guess, who do you think is going to have the disposable income to buy the houses off these people? The people that the government refuses to tax, the actual ultra rich people, the actual super rich people. So once again, that's why I say politics is about spectacle. I find it so annoying. Like politics really annoys me because, like I've said, I saw so many people happy about this. And when I saw this, I'm just like, but it's still not a tax on the rich though. Like it's not, it's not a tax on the rich. Like it's just not a tax on the rich. So yeah, politics like annoys me. Like don't even get me started on politics. Like especially in the UK, because that's where I'm based. Like yeah, don't get me started on politics. Do not get me started. Yeah, not enough people are putting the time in to fix things. I'm not doing it in my job, but I know there are folks that can. Yeah, and I honestly wish that the politicians spent more time actually fixing issues than just like doing that. But I understand why politics is that way, because another thing that you guys need to remember about politics: most politicians, especially in the UK, are rich. Most politicians come from really rich families. They all went to like Eton. There was a time when the Conservative Party was just like Eton Boys Community Club, basically. So they all go to these super expensive private schools. They're all rich. They all go to Oxford. And so, of course, they're going to do things that benefit them and their friends, because most people, that's human nature, do things that are in their best interest. So when you have, you know, super rich people running the country that don't even know what the problems are, that they're so far removed from the day-to-day problems that people have in the country, why would they even care, or why would they even know, or why would they want to fix it? You can't even fix a problem that you're not aware of. Like most politicians, if you actually ask them, like, okay, what do you think is like the major problem that people are having? I don't think they would have a sufficient answer, or they would have a very like an answer that's based on some statistic that, you know, someone that works for them told them, essentially. And that's just how it goes. That's honestly how it goes. Someone said, yeah, here in the US, all the Congress members are millionaires, a good chunk. Yeah, exactly, which is why they're going to put things in place that help them. And I think America is even worse, because with America, in the US, there's a lot of massive companies that sponsor presidential campaigns. And so because they sponsor presidential campaigns, that kind of gives them access under the table to favors when those people that they sponsor their campaign is in power. So that's why you see like presidents lobbying for certain companies, because if you look deeper, those are the companies that basically sponsored their presidential campaigns. Like that's literally how it goes. We must blame Oxbridge for nurturing these types of people. 100%. Oh my God. Politicians are wealthy here in America. They're essentially protecting themselves from future tax liabilities. Yeah, so that's why I don't understand why like people don't read between the lines when it comes to anything that these politicians put in place. People like AOC and Bernie didn't come from generational wealth, so they have better optics. Yeah, but like I like the AOC, but like I'm not. I'm once again, I'm not that into American politics. So like maybe you guys can tell me like what things has AOC put in place. Let me know in the chat. No, really, if there was introduce a big tax for rich people in the country, what would prevent them from just moving to a country that's better for them financially? So you put in place a very high exit tax, which the UK has started to do, but it's not. I still feel like their exit tax still affects the middle class. It doesn't affect people that are really rich, because they just make their taxes complicated. They make their assets complicated. Like they complicate it, and then when it comes to an exit tax, it's very hard to like do that. So they need to make the exit tax criteria more stringent. That's the only way. Because yeah, if you heavily tax rich people, then they'll want to leave. But then you just put in an exit tax, so when they leave, they just pay a lot of money to leave, and then you use that money to improve the country. I want to see what you guys are saying about AOC. I'm just curious what she's done in the US, because I don't know. I really don't know. McConnell going missing for the whole summer. His whole staff being paid six figures. That's crazy. And now he's supposedly at home, but no one has a picture or video. He could be on life support or dead and would never be told. Re-wealth, there's a ton of loopholes in the US. We need an exit tax first, for real. Yeah, 100%. Okay, AOC co-authored the Green New Deal. That's her big policy thing. Okay, that's interesting. I need to look into that. I need to look into that. Okay, Uni says AOC has sold out. She calls woke number one a mistake. Um, People like AOC because she's anti-establishment, yet she's donor supported, so that helps. But it's like, I don't know. She's just one person screaming, so I don't know. Interesting. So, okay, it seems like there's a mixed reaction in the chat in terms of AOC. Unfortunately, AOC is just another spineless Democrat. Abdul Al Said is the only politician I have some faith in. Interesting. People also forget that rich people are also human and don't want to be immigrants and leave their comfortable homeland just because of e.g. 10% tax increase. I mean, like, to be very honest with you, if I was super rich and they increase my tax by 10%, why would I care? Because, like, ultimately, your assets are growing by so much every year. Like, why does it matter? Like, why? Why does it matter? I do think at some point it is like a level of greed because it's like if you're a billionaire, the rate at which your assets will increase in value, even if tax increases, your assets are still just increasing in value at such a fast rate that like it just doesn't matter. Like it just really does not matter. Okay, Luke said there's a 0% chance AOC gets elected. Interesting. Okay, someone is saying people have been losing faith in her this week specifically. It seems that she's becoming more moderate and therefore ignoring important causes. Interesting. Interesting. Too high of taxes lead to unfair trade and more slave labor. So when I say taxes, I don't agree with increasing, especially in the UK, increasing income tax. I think any tax on income becomes a middle class and working class tax. That's all it is. So I don't agree with that. I agree on like taxing assets at source that are worth stupid amounts of money. So like if there was a not even a crazy tax, like a just a tiny tax, like maybe a 1% tax on assets worth 100 million or more, that kind of tax, because that is where you tax super rich people, not some like increasing income tax. Like most people can't even afford to live based on the tax rates that we have now. So raising income tax is not what I'm even talking about. Uni says, I'm afraid to talk about politics on the chat. Yeah, I mean, politics they're like really polarizing. Obviously, people are really passionate about politics. Um, I'm passionate about the world being a better place, but I'm not passionate about politics because of all the stuff that I've mentioned before. Like, politicians can't be trusted. I don't care what political party they're a part of. US rap Tom Keane was missing for months. His staff pretended they had no idea where he was. They all got paid too. He said later he was away for depression. None of us get to do that and keep our jobs. 100%. That is very true. That's crazy. That's absolutely insane. Like just living off of taxpayer money. That's crazy. That's actually insane. Tangent, but can we talk about LVMH trimming down its portfolio? Oh, yeah, that's interesting. To be honest, I don't have much to say about that because I haven't done a deep dive. Obviously, I'm noticing how many brands they're selling. But like even like Stella McCartney bought her shares back from LVMH, like a lot of brands. But I don't know. I need to look into that. like why exactly that's happening, and then I'll get back to you. But it's definitely like we've people have been mentioning it here and there. What do I think about the Arde situation? Oh, controversial. Um, to be honest, once again, I don't want to misspeak because I haven't like I kind of know what's going on with the Jason Arde situation, but I haven't really looked deep into it. If I'm going to be very honest with you, like I don't know. Like I know some people are saying that he. I think so. My understanding is that the plagiarism accusations are not proven to be correct, but what has been proven to be correct is like I think he lied about his resume. I think is what people say is like verifiable, but you guys can correct me in the chat if I'm wrong because like I haven't because it's just so traumatic for me. But anyway, for me, what I think about the Jason Arde situation, I think it's a symptom of British society as a whole. Because I think that, if a lecturer or a professor has found to be, I don't know, lying about their resume or plagiarizing or whatever, then they're supposed to go through an investigation, and at which point we have a verdict of the investigation, then that's when we can now decide what we think about the situation. But someone accused him of plagiarizing, and then all of a sudden now, and the American media are the worst. The American media started using that as like a hook to say that this is why we shouldn't have DEI, and like this is why like like we shouldn't hire black people because the only reason they're there is because they're black and not because they have like they're actually qualified for the role, and black people are never qualified for roles they're in. So it started to become that kind of rhetoric. And I do find that very fascinating because what I do find fascinating is that why was this story newsworthy considering how much evidence of, let's say, professors of other races that have plagiarized and professors of other races that have lied about their resume. It's just interesting. Like you have to examine, and that doesn't make it if because once again I don't know the facts. But if Jason Arde did actually do some of the stuff that they're saying he did, I don't condone that. However, I just observing it is very interesting that what he did is newsworthy. It's so newsworthy that it became a national story. But then so many other professors have been caught doing that, and it's never newsworthy. You have to examine that. It's just very, very interesting. So that was something that definitely interested me because this stuff happens all the time. I mean, this shit happened to my dad, right? Um, like, cause okay, to talk about what happened to my dad. So my dad grew up in Nigeria, and he went to university in Nigeria. So he got his degree, his first degree in Nigeria. Um, and when he moved to the UK, he was in this job. And because my dad is like a very intelligent, but like super intelligent, my dad is probably the most intelligent person I personally know. He's really smart, like way smarter than me, for sure. Like my dad is one of those people that has photographic memory. He's like one of those like super intelligent. Like when you think of those like super smart Nigerians, that's my dad. But anyway, so my dad, because he's like really smart and he's like very, he's just good at what he does, right? All the time. So he was progressing in his career really fast, like really rapidly, because he just always had really good ideas. He was always presenting the right ideas that would lead to where he's working, they would make more money and they would work more efficiently. So when you're that good, you just, you start being promoted a lot. So he started to get promoted really fast, and he started to enter senior management. And when he entered senior management, because my dad was like, I think one of the only black people in senior management where he worked. And my dad worked, like he worked for a big company. I'm not going to say what company. And so there was a white woman that worked there. that was I don't know if it's like jealousy or maybe she's just racist or she feels like black people can't be smart. How dare you be in the same position as me? So she reported my dad and said that my dad is lying about his degree and my dad's degree is fake. So because of that, and I literally remember this like, because this happened when I was like a kid. And I literally remember this shit like it was clockwork. So because of this shit, and this was an accusation, it wasn't even like investigated yet. So he got like suspended, and then they had to do this elaborate investigation where they called my dad's university and they had to produce the degree and they had to do like all of this other stuff. And obviously by the end of the investigation, it was found that obviously my dad wasn't lying about his resume. And so because of it, um, obviously my dad got back into work and like now no one's allowed to question my dad and his resume because of what happened. And the woman that basically opened that investigation, she ended up getting fired because then my dad opened a uh, retaliatory investigation that essentially looked into like what was the bounds that she accused my dad of that. And based on that, she got fired. And I remember I was talking to my dad like, was it 5 years ago? What, like not long ago. And my dad was like, he saw the woman like recent because he hadn't seen her in like years. And he saw the woman that accused him of that, and like she looked like she was like going through it, and he found it so funny. But why I'm mentioning this story about my dad is if you're a black person, and a lot of if you're not black, you just want to understand it because, and this is the thing about racism, when you're not the person that experienced racism, it feels like it doesn't exist or it's not a thing because you're not actively experiencing it, right? So if you're a black person in the UK, this is the black experience in the UK. This is normal. This is common. This is like standard in the UK. So when stuff like Jason Arde, that stuff happens, it's just very fascinating that that is newsworthy. Because, for example, what happened to my dad, if it became some sort of news story, they would have jumped on that story before the investigation was even opened. And all these like the American right wing press would have used it for their DEI narrative and be like, see, this is why DEI is not good. And like, he's only in that job because of DEI and da da da. Like, without the, without the investigation even being opened. And then when the investigation is closed and they find that there's no wrongdoing, are these people going to remove the videos they made? Are they going to walk back on the narrative they've created? Of course not. So that's why I just like knowing what I know and having the experiences that I've experienced or the experiences I've seen my dad go through. That's why I feel the way I feel about the Jason Arde situation. So yeah, essentially. To answer that question, Luke, in a very long-winded way. Foxy says, I'm a mixed black American woman. My dad was side-eyed by whites and blacks. His friends in school are first-gen immigrants because racism on all sides. Damn. If he hadn't been exceptional and just qualified, he wouldn't have gotten to be the first youngest black professor. Jason with two GCSEs would have said it was unfair and DEI. Yeah, facts. 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 That's facts. That's honestly facts. Yeah, I'm glad he was vindicated too. But like, and the thing about those cases, anything can happen, because it's just like, if they can't find evidence, like if, let's say they kept reaching out to my dad's old university and they just, based on their capacity, they don't have capacity to like respond to that kind of outreach, that case could have turned out very differently, right? Yeah, because the way like universities operate, like admin wise, they're not as efficient as like, let's say, universities in the West. Like if you were to verify someone's degree, like where I went to school, like UAL, it would be very easy to call UAL and verify my degree. It's not really the same for degrees in like different countries. And to be honest, that's less likely to happen to my dad now now because it's not that this was when I was a kid. Now my dad has like multiple degrees, multiple masters, and MBA. Like it's very different circumstance. Like here in the US, the Supreme Court justice has the most trial experience on the bench, yet they claim DEI. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's really funny because like obviously I'm Nigerian, like Nigerian British, and growing up, like my mum always used to tell me, and I say this all the time that like my mum, like growing up, my mum used to tell me like you need to remember you're not white, like you're not going to be afforded the same, leeway that your white counterparts get afforded. So you have to kind of be more sensible than them. You have to be more considered than them. You have to be more tactical than them. You have to be smarter than them. You have to be more qualified than them. And so that's why, like when I was in school, like certain things would happen and I'll just remove myself. Like there's a way I live my life because of that. Like for example, I don't like going out at night. Like I'm not a party person. I don't go to a lot of night events because I always feel like if anything goes wrong at night, optically, the optics don't look good if I'm there as a big black man. It just doesn't look good. So I would rather just not being in those situations to start with because my safety is at risk. So there's like things like that. There's like things that I just naturally do because of it. Because I know the way that I'm going to be treated versus someone else is just not the same. It really isn't the same. Why I find it so weird to find non-whites proudly claim their support for this current administration. Clearly, this is an organized effort to reduce minority/women in prominent roles. Yep, that's definitely part of it. For sure. We get the talk, work hard, keep your head down. I popped off now and then, but I knew it wouldn't always be appreciated. 100%. I remember they were complaining about the DEI astronaut they just sent to the moon and never accept that their race doesn't make them superior at everything, even things they cannot do. Yeah, I just don't understand all the like weird race shit. It's like if someone is qualified for a job, why does it matter? Like I just don't understand why does it matter their race? If someone is white and they're qualified for the job, then they should get the job. If someone is black and they're qualified for the job, they should get the job. If they're Asian and they're qualified for the job, they should get the job. Why is it that if you're black and you're qualified for a job, people start, oh, it's the like, why is that? It's just weird. It's just really, really weird. And yeah, 100%. Anything pops off, big black guy is the first person of interest. People say they saw 100%. You can't deny reality, but the constant feeling of having to do more is hella annoying. I don't want to accept it. Fuck this system. But to dismantle it, you need to succeed first. Yeah, 100%. Like even if you look at my career, I think my career is a very good example of what I'm trying to illustrate. Because in my career, I couldn't get like a journalism job. Like guys. Let me show you guys something. Let me show you guys something. Okay, perfect. So guys. When I decided that I wanted to be a fashion journalist, not fashion journalism. This is what the Vogue editorial team in 2017 looked like British Vogue. And obviously I live in the UK. So that picture you're seeing is the Vogue editorial staff in 2017. So do you think that I would, in that time of Vogue, do you think that someone like me, qualified or not, would get a job at British Vogue during that time? The answer is no. So that's why someone like me, I had to like do my own research, read loads of fashion books, become super educated on fashion, go to fashion school, study fashion journalism at university, do all these things, build my own platform on YouTube, and then use that to leverage building a career in fashion, right? And bearing in mind, I've been working in fashion for like 11 years now. So, like, I've had to build all of that framework just to find my way into the industry. I don't think a lot of people that you're looking at on this in this picture have had to go through all of that to get to where they got to. And that is why when I go to Fashion Week or when I talk to a lot of journalists, they don't actually know a lot about fashion. Like, they really don't know a lot about fashion, because what I've noticed is that when people have jobs handed to them or they're Nepo babies or whatever, there's no chip on their shoulder. Like, I had a chip on my shoulder. I genuinely thought that, like, when I first got into fashion and I thought I wanted to be a journalist, I felt like to be a journalist, you have to be so educated on fashion. And obviously, I used to read the likes of Robin Givhan, and I was into all these journalists that were super educated on fashion. So I built a whole library and started reading my own fashion book. I own more than 100 fashion books, and I've read all of them. And I'm buying more as time progresses, right? And I learned all this stuff about fashion history, expecting that was just the expectation of a fashion journalist. I genuinely thought that was like, if any fashion journalist does the same thing that I'm doing, that's what I thought. And then when I started to really get into the industry and I'm referencing certain things and talking about certain things, I would say out of the people I meet in the fashion industry, I'd say 9 out of 10 people almost never know what I'm talking about, which is a lot of people, by the way. And that's exactly what I'm saying. So it's that, like, being black and feeling like you have to be exceptional just to be in the same position. And I think that's why being a consultant or consulting is like it comes very easily to me, because like I have a lot of ideas because I'm so well researched on fashion, and also I'm very involved in like what's going on currently. I go to, all the fashion weeks, I talk to a lot of people all the time. It's a very different position to like the average person that works in fashion, right? So even I would say my career is a good example of like trying to be exceptional as a black person just to be in like a similar or the same position that other people are in, if that makes sense. So that's kind of like the situation. It also still feels weird sometimes walking through museums or flying business. There often isn't anyone else with curly hair, and it feels so strange. All my friends are blue eyes. That's hilarious. As someone who was at Condé Nast during the Alexander Schulman days, woof. Baby, it was hard. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. Yeah, exactly. We have to fly to get to places where others can walk to. I would say though, the only advantage of doing that, like going back to this point, this whole like we have to fly to get to places where others can walk to. The only good thing about this is that when you finally get to that place, you're so much more advanced than the people there, that like you're able to accelerate. Like, I won't tell you what I have going on in the background, but because of the experience I have in the industry, I'm able to like see gaps and build businesses and like consult and do things and see things that other people don't see, right? And it works in my favor every time. Like, it definitely works into my favor. And a reason why in 5 years from now I'm probably going to make a lot of money is because of that same reason, right? Um, so yeah, without giving you guys details. The problem lies where, because there's exceptional black people getting in, others think the system is getting fairer when it's not. That's a very good point, by the way. That's a very, very good point. A very, very good point. Because that's why I saw someone the other day that said, I don't like the idea of black excellence. I like the idea of black mediocrity. And I like that point because what they meant by that was that if more black people are seen as okay for being mediocre, that means that everyone is seen at a level playing field. Because there are other people that get to be mediocre, um, whereas you can be like black and exceptional, and people are still questioning your credentials and saying it's DEI. So that really made a lot of sense to me, like that point. But yeah, this is all extended from Luke asking me about Jason Arde. But Luke, do you have any more controversial questions you want to ask me? And exactly this, like, why can't we just be average like everybody else? 100%. This guy I knew was super mean to black women, but got a George Floyd scholarship because he was scrappy and a community leader. That happens too, where you have people who like hate black women and they're black men, and like they're not actually like they don't actually care about the advancement of black people, but they still have access to certain things because ultimately they still are black. That happens a lot. I literally know people who literally got in because some admissions officer liked their story. That's funny. Should we make John Galliano prime minister? No. Definitely not. Yeah, the black dudes who hate us and oh my god, let's talk about something controversial, right? Let's talk about something controversial because this is something that like really annoys me. Um, Black men that are like anti-black women, that those type of black men are the worst people on the planet to me. Like they are the worst example of human being on the planet. Oh my god. Like don't even get me started. Like don't even get me started on that. Do not get me started on that. I encourage black and Latino friends to join college overseas because the unfair disadvantages they have to overcome in the US. Yeah, especially the black guys who have money and only like white girls. Oh, let's talk about this. Let's unpack this. Let's unpack this because this is a very like controversial topic, I guess, or it's like heavily culturally charged. Um, so what I think about this is this is what really annoys me about black men like this, right? This is what really annoys me. I don't have an issue with interracial dating. I've dated interracially, so clearly I don't have an issue with it. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think what is wrong with it is when you use dating interracially as a means to bash black women. That is like the kind of black men that say black women are ugly, but then they date white women. Like they can't just date white women. They have to they have to what's the right word? Contextualize why they like white women or why they like Asian women by bashing black women. It's like why can't you just like a white woman and not hate black? Like why do those two things have to coexist? And like there's so many black men that do that shit and it's so fucking annoying. It like gets on my nerves, like people like that. Um, because a lot of those people then represent black people and like it's like these people don't even like their own people, but okay. Um, it's like insane. Someone said I ran into a lot of UCLA and dating white women not Asian but not Latinas because two ghetto. Yeah, they like oh my god. Oh my god. I cannot even begin to start unpacking the self-hate in this like two because I've met black men that I'm like, okay, why don't you like black? Because I even okay, objectively, and I'm saying this as like a man that's interested in women. So other people might. I'm just saying it from my perspective, right? But from my perspective, I think that there's no race of women that is inherently ugly. Like I think if you're an objective person, there's no way that you could possibly objectively say that all white women are ugly, or all Asian women are ugly, or all black women are ugly. It's like a very irrational way to think. So I've always thought that, like, even if like you're a black man and you're dating a white woman, like I even think that could just be someone that you're personally attracted to, and that could be someone that you personally find attractive. But I don't even think it's possible for you to be like, to for just because you're dating a white woman, it means that like you don't think any black woman is attractive. I think that's a very irrational thought. Like, I mainly date black women, for example, but there are many attractive white women. Just because I don't date a lot of white women doesn't mean that like I don't think they're attractive white women. Or just because I don't date a lot of Asian women doesn't mean that I don't think there aren't attractive Asian. I just think that way of thinking is so irrational. And then when you now add in the context of when people start saying things like, "Oh, black women are ghetto," and stuff like that, I don't even know what they're talking about, because the black women I know are like educated and they work in finance and they make a lot of money. Like, I'm Nigerian, so I know a lot of Nigerian women, and all of them are like doctors and dentists, and like they all make loads of money, and they're all really successful, and they all went to good schools. A lot of them went to private school. So when I hear black men say, "Oh, I don't like black women because they're ghetto," I'm like, who are you talking about? And is it only black women that can be ghetto? Because I know ghetto people of like every race. So if to you every single black woman is ghetto, I think you just have self hate. But honestly, because the black women around me, the black women that I know, are they sound. In fact, the way they speak English is so posh, and they make so much money, and they all come from good families. They're doctors. Their dad is a doctor. Their mum is a doctor. Their mum is a dentist. They come from families like mine. Like, my mum is a scientist, and like my mum is a microbiologist, and my dad is a doctor. So like I have a sister. So like my sister's not ghetto. Like, my sister went to private school. So like I just don't understand what these black men are talking about. Like, when they're like, so and so is ghetto. I actually don't understand what they're talking about. I really don't understand. I don't get it. I don't even know what they're talking about, honestly. Is someone what are people saying in the chat? Um Yeah, and poor people are hot too, but I was obviously making a point, because it's irrational to say that our whole race is ghetto. It's rooted in self-hate, because I was making the point that like there are so many, even if like that's where you want to take it, there are so many people of every race that aren't. So I don't understand how that's like a valid excuse to not date, or even if you don't want to date them, to say that none of a whole race is attractive in any way. I think that's very irrational as a thought. So once again, I just think it's irrational. But yeah, you don't need to have money to be attractive. But I'm just like, I'm pointing out the holes in people's arguments. Wait, your mum is a microbiologist too? No way. Twinning. Yeah, my mum's a microbiologist. Foxy says being a professional is a big deal in immigrant families of color. Education is important. Both my parents went to college. Dad got an advanced degree. Mum was an artist. Went to art school. Yeah, both of my parents have master's degrees. Yeah, not working hard ain't gonna fly in our families. 100%. 100%. Agreed. Ghetto is a word people use to describe their prejudices. Um. So yeah, it's because someone brought it up, but yeah, black men like that. I don't even have the words to describe how low I think of black men that like think like that or talk like that. Yeah, insane, insane. Ghetto is what men say to alleviate their guilt for wanting to use white women as trophies. Now, okay, to give some pushback, I don't think that every black man that dates a white woman sees the white woman as a trophy. I think it just depends on the kind of black man. If the black man is dating the white woman has nothing negative to say about black women, then I would believe that that person is with the white woman because they love the white woman. But if the black man has very negative things to say all the time about black women, then yes, that is an example, which there are a lot of men like that. That is an example of someone that is essentially, yeah, saying that black women are ghetto to alleviate their guilt for wanting to use white women as trophy. That is that. But I don't think in every single case that's the case, for sure. So yeah. So we both experienced the shared disappointment our moms felt when we told them we were going into fashion. Luke, you understand my pain. I feel seen. I feel seen by you. Also, because there's probably some women that aren't black. Let me give you guys some like really strong dating advice. If like you date black men, or if like you ever date a black man, like this is some like dating advice that you won't get anywhere else. Like this is some like next level dating advice, right? So my dating advice to women that aren't black, that are open to dating black men: anytime you're dating a black man, you need to be very attentive to what they say or what kind of rhetoric they spew. If you hear a black man say something negative about a black woman, just unprovoked, it means that that black man has self-hate. Now, this is very important. This is very important because when a black man has self-hate, it manifests in many different ways. It's either you're a fetish to him, and if you're a fetish to him, it means that he's not seeing you as a human, he's seeing you as a fetish. And that will manifest itself in many different ways. That's why that person might end up being abusive or treating you really badly, or doing things out of character, because they're not really seeing you as a person. Really, they're seeing you as like a trophy or like a fetish, right? So if you're, let's say like you're white or you're Indian, and a black man keeps talking about like how great your hair is, while also saying, because I don't like black women's hair, be very careful. Be very careful. That's not the kind of black man you want to date. That is not, those are like the kind of black men that could have abusive tendencies. I'm giving you guys some serious game right now. So be very attentive. If you're a non-black woman and you're dating a black man and he always has good things to say about black women, but he just loves you, that's the kind of black man you want to date, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's my dating advice of the day. Because I have a lot of like women that are my friends that aren't black, and I have to explain this to them like constantly. Like, because they don't understand the cultural context. Like, if you, people that are black that heard me say that understand exactly what I'm talking about, but I've had to really like hammer this into my non-black friends that date black men. So yeah. Also, yes, colorism is part of it too. So if you date a black man that's a colorist, it's the same thing. Yeah, same. Tanya says you're finishing me. This is also true. There are many relationships where it's the fetish object dating the fetish object. They don't like each other. Yeah, that's fact. Yeah, I have white friends who date Africans, and I always have to let them know the real tea. 100%. 100%. Because when someone has self-hate, that self-hate is going to manifest at some point. It will. It honestly will. I've been needing to go to sleep for now, but this stream is so good. Well, thank you for sticking with us. I always say this: racism, colorism, homophobia, just different flavors of violence. Beware. I'm just the messenger, guys. I'm just the messenger. I'm just the messenger. 90 Day Fiance shows this. I've never actually watched 90 Day Fiance. I'm aware of the show. What part of 90 Day Fiance kind of illustrates what we've been talking about? I'm just curious because I've never actually watched it. Give me like an example. I had an Italian grad student tell me I was exotic. Okay, this is another tip for my non-black, because black women understand this. So I know I don't need to explain this to black women. But if you're a woman and you're not black, if any person that's not your race calls you exotic, that means you are a fetish. You do not want to date someone that calls you, like, trust me. Like, the kind of man that calls a woman exotic is just not, like, that guy sees you're a piece of meat. You're not a human being to that man. Like, you're a trophy. You're not a human being. Like, you do not want to date a guy that calls you exotic. But anyway, let me read. I just wanted to reiterate that, but let me read this comment. I had an Italian grad student tell me I was exotic at UCLA. As to why he was attracted to me, oh, that's a red flag. Had to shoot that down and let him know I wasn't. Exotic means foreign. Oh gosh. Even my Hispanic friends date Africans, and it's like, guys, they just me talk because you have families back home. That's hilarious. That's funny. That's really funny. That's really funny. Okay, so in 90 Day Fiance, you'll have a white girl dating someone from North Africa, and he wants her to wear hijab. Have a white girl there. Okay, interesting. That means they're just not culturally. They're not they're from two different cultures, so it's very unlikely that it's going to work. Or say it's a black girl dating a guy from Dion. He's frick. Yep, you guys are cooking in the chat. You're so dash for a dash person. Yeah, the qualifiers. Oof, we don't like qualifiers over here. If people have to qualify you being good looking, red flag. Yeah, you're not like yeah, that's a qualifier. You're not like the other girls, but with layers of race and colorism. Red flag. Two sides of the same coin. The type of man who calls you exotic spends too much time on explicit websites. I had a woman call me exotic because they were sexually attracted to me, but they didn't know why. Oh my god, that's funny. Um, yeah, you guys are smart in this stream. We have smart people in this stream. Like, exotic is a huge red flag. Those guys who said that to me usually become stalkers very out of pocket. 50-year passport bros get a 22-year-old girlfriend from the Philippines who wants to bring her back to the US as his housewife maid. Yeah, that's a totally different thing. Yeah. Do you know what? This is going to sound harsh, but I genuinely believe this. I genuinely believe that you know the kind of so there's a difference because we like to have nuance in these live streams. So there's the kind of person that just moved to the Philippines for work and happened to fall in love. That's genuine. That's different. The kind of person that's a passport bro that leaves like where they live specifically to go and marry someone, and most times the people that they go and marry are people in poverty, so they're kind of holding money over their head essentially, and like these women are more looking for like financial stability through these men. Those men, they're always going to be weirdos because if you can't like date people in a whole country that you're in, there has to be something fundamentally wrong with you. You cannot tell me, and that's why a lot of these men, anyway, the whole manosphere, some of these men, they can't be saved. But you cannot tell me that like the way these guys talk, they'll say things like, American women are cooked. All the women in America. It's like, you mean to tell me every single woman in a country as big as America, like none of them are good? Right? Okay. Like, okay. And that's why they're weirdos. Like, have you ever seen? I could pull up a video right now of like a passport bro, and they're going to be a weirdo. Like, they're always weird, because it takes a kind of person that's so weird that you can't date anyone in the country you're in, that you have to like go to areas in different countries where you can hold money over people's heads and like have arrangements and stuff like that. Yeah, because it's like a power imbalance, 100%. So I just think people like that are just weirdos. They're honestly weirdos. Oh, this is another qualifier. You speak so well for a. You speak so well. I could never tell you were a. Yeah, the qualifiers. I've told you any qualifier. That's a red flag. That's a big red flag. Not the qualifiers. Luke said this is why straight men should be born in prison and earn their way out. I wouldn't go that far, but that's funny. They don't want a girl who doesn't speak English well to control her, which is fun. This is what I don't understand. And then after this, you guys can ask me a different question. But if you want me to continue talking about this, fair enough. But like, what I don't understand about some of these men is like if you're a decent person, you're not going to struggle dating, and you're also not going to struggle dating very good people, because I don't know who, like, if these people have dads in their lives, or like if they have good male figures, or if they have like good parents. I don't know who raised these people, but like it should be common sense that when you treat people well, they treat you well back. If you treat someone with respect, they treat you with respect back. They like if you're very kind to someone, they want to do good things for you back. So most times, if you want, to date someone that like helps you around the house or whatever, the best way to go about that is by helping them with stuff, right? Because when they see you helping them with stuff, they'll want to help you with stuff. And then all of a sudden, you're both working to make each other's lives easier. I thought that was common sense. But a lot of people didn't get that memo. I don't know why. So that's why these men always have like the problems they have and like the dating issues they have, because they genuinely want like to date a woman that's basically like their slave, and it's like that doesn't work. That's why you have dating issues. That's why you have problems. You can't just date someone and like expect them to just do everything and like you do nothing. That's insane. Like I don't know who raised these people, honestly. I really don't know who raised these people. I love it when they're surprised by their divorce 2 years into the car crash marriage, once she's learned English and made good friends who told her to run. I've actually seen cases of that, funny enough. Oh my god. People pick up low key manipulation or control as the only form of love from their household. Like, okay, good example. Just to give me as an example, like I cook, I clean. I'm actually a very clean person. I clean around the house a lot. Um, what else do I do? I just do loads of domestic things, right? So if I'm dating someone and we're in the same space, I will cook and I will clean and I'll do like all those kind of things. But then if maybe I'm doing something else, then my partner might do that. And then when it's convenient for maybe she's busy doing something else, then I might do that. And then we help each other and it's seamless. that's how most situations should be. The whole like you just do 10 billion things for me and I just sit here like a king is just so tapped. Like, I don't understand why people think that way. I just don't understand that way of thinking personally. Personally, I don't understand that thought process. Someone once thought I was Afghan and said I knew a lot of English for a migrant. Oh my God. Damn. That's a crazy thing to say. Yeah, I've reviewed quite a few fashion portfolios on streams, to be honest. Exotic people are racial markers of people who are sexually attractive but not suitable for dating and marriage. To an extent. Don't know why they don't stay in the culture that made that perfect wife rather than uprooting the poor lady. That's a good point, actually. Um, that's a good point. Oh, this is random. What are my thoughts on the CIA? I don't know because I don't know much about the CIA or what the CIA is up to. Yeah, I don't. I don't know much about the CIA to be honest. Yeah, see this like some men expect you to be the housewife and you're working more hours. That's so dumb. That's so stupid. But then again, this is why I always have to ask who raised these people because like for me growing up, like observing my parents, how it was for my parents is because both of my parents cook and clean and all that sort of stuff, right? So if my mum would finish work early, then my mum would pick me up from school. She would be the one to cook. She would do whatever. If my dad was the one to finish early, then my dad would be the one to pick me up from school, do the cooking, all that sort of stuff. I think partnerships, relationships, whatever, should be about helping each other grow. It should be about making each other's lives easier. It should be like that's what a relationship or a partnership is about. That's why it's called a partnership. It's not a dictatorship. It's not a you do all the work and I just sit back. That's not what that is, if that makes sense. CIA or MI5. I don't know much about the operations of the MI5 either, so I don't know what's going on there. I don't know what's going on there. Oh my god, that's funny. What corporate roles exist in between the intersection of fashion and finance? Mm, I guess what I do is kind of corporate. Um, like consulting is kind of like in the middle of finance, business, and fashion. To be honest, it's kind of like all three, all in one. Um, um, I mean, you can be like, I guess that's more finance or business. I was gonna say like M&A and stuff, but that is actually just finance. Um, mm, I'm trying to think of what else. Um, I'll give that a thought. I'll give that a thought. The CIA, they're trying to get the live shut down. I haven't seen the new Supreme collection. What is it good? We can have a look if you want, but I haven't seen it. Uni says a lot of people suffer from trauma, from power imbalance or stigma, and are not able to demonstrate that balance so easily in dating, surprisingly. Oh, that's a shame. I straight up think West Africans tend to have healthier gender relations than my conservative Western nations that had to unlearn their patriarchy. I guess it depends what culture you're from. Because, like, my culture, specifically where I'm from in Nigeria, the women are actually I'm not sure you can say leaders, but like they're in more control, if that makes sense. But there's nuance to it because, okay, in my tribe, that's the case, but then Nigeria as a country is very sexist. So potato, potato. I don't think all West Africans have healthier gender relations, to be fair. I think West Africans can be very sexist, if I'm going to be very objective. Have you gotten too used to expecting easy access to sex? I feel like many men don't even want a good relationship, they just focus on the unmet need for intimacy. But even that, for example, is like, and this is why, once again, I don't know who raised these men. Like, there are women in this world that don't even want a relationship, and actually, what they want is just to have sex with someone who is going to be respectful, and they can just have casual sex. So if you're just a guy, you tell women your intentions, you're not trying to be manipulative and act like you want a relationship when that's not what you want. Eventually, if you're a nice person, you're a genuine person, and you're open with people, you're going to find someone that will willingly have sex with you and like doesn't want anything in return. So even that is like, so that's why even incel culture, I just find it weird, because it's just like, if you're just a normal person, like if you just acted normal, you wouldn't even have these issues. If you just weren't a weirdo, I am Yoruba. Like if you're just not weird, like you wouldn't have those issues. Like, humans are not meant to be with one person forever. I don't know if I agree with that, but fair enough if that's how you feel. They are not good people. You're assuming they're normal. Oh no, no, no! I know they're not normal. That's why they have the issues that they have. If they were normal, they wouldn't, like, all the things that they stress about. They wouldn't be stressing about if they were actually normal people. To be honest. It caused me so much mental distress growing up and realizing my stepfather is exactly that type of guy that just sits on the couch. Yeah. Yeah. And I do think a lot of the issues that we have in society today, a lot of it is predicated on like people not touching grass. Because I also think that like a lot of people online, so there's like, it's like a feedback loop, right? So a lot of people online talk about their trauma online, and then those videos, because the situations that they talk about are really traumatic, then what happens is it's a feedback loop. So then people start to internalize all these traumatic experiences as their own, and then they go out into the world. This is what like I feel like a lot of incels do, or a lot of men that hate women do. They like consume all this content of like men saying women do this, women do that, women do this, women do that, and they just internalize it, and they have no experience with women at all. They don't talk to any woman, they don't touch grass, and then they go into the world thinking that way. And I think that definitely happens to women too, to a lesser degree than men, but it definitely does happen to women too, because I've seen women in that constant state. So it's just, yeah, I think a lot more people need to not internalize so much stuff that they see on the internet. And then another thing about the internet that people need to remember is not everything is that people say on the internet is true. So there are a lot of stories on the internet that people make up because they know it will get viral. And if a video goes viral, they make money. So there's literally a financial incentive to making up stories on the internet. So there's also that. So yeah. Peace is priceless. Better to be alone than with the trifling man. The issue is that your value as men is determined by your popularity with men across the board for leftist slash rightoid. Wait, let me read this again. The issue is that your value as men is determined by your popularity with men across the board for leftist slash rightoid. One is disrespectful to women. Entitlement. I'm not sure I understand what you're saying. Can you reword that? I'm trying to understand. Yeah, this too. To incels, every woman is an enemy and every man is competition. Yeah, those guys just need to touch grass. Literally. How the brace is going. Oh, we're almost done. I'm basically almost done. I think in September, I have my last braces, like my last tightening. And then by early next year, I won't have braces anymore. So it's been a good 2 years. I feel like you guys are used to it. I remember when I first got braces and people are like, oh my God, you got braces. I feel like people are so used to it, no one even talks about it anymore. It's kind of like a part of me. It's a part of my face. Yeah, exactly. I think I was talking about this earlier. Like one man's bad experience with women shouldn't be used as a baseline for all men to use against the women as a whole. Exactly. Um, no, I've not heard from Crick Owens. No, Andrew Tate wasn't trolling. He wasn't trolling. Have you seen the videos of couples discovering their partners are cheating on them and giving them the divorce papers? No, I've not. I've not seen that. I don't think I've seen that. Do I have any new fashion pickups? I don't think so. Not any time. Not any recent time. Not any recent time. You are in my prayers. You are in my prayers. I don't think you needed braces, but if you like it, oh, it was for medical reasons. So I'll tell you. I'll tell you why I got braces. So the reason I got braces is so I would go to the dentist to get my teeth professionally cleaned every like 4 to 6 months. And I started to notice that this front tooth here would go like brown really quickly. And I was confused because I'm like, why is it like I brush my teeth twice a day? I use mouthwash in between. I'd have every kind of I use interdental brushes, I floss, I use water floss like I my dental care routine is outrageously good. So why is that happening? So I did a checkup with the dentist and they did an x-ray on my tooth and they found that my tooth was cracked at the back. So that was the reason why my tooth stained easily because of the crack. And then they had to figure out, okay, how did your tooth crack? So they had to analyze the way that I sleep. And then it turns out that I grind my teeth in my sleep. So then they were like, okay, grinding your teeth in your sleep shouldn't cause this much damage. So then they did more research and then they found that the position of my teeth they weren't in the right position. So my dentist told me that when you bite, like when you bite down, your teeth are supposed to perfectly sit in between the gaps of each tooth. But my teeth sit right on top of each other, like that, basically. But they're supposed to sit kind of like that, like each tooth when you bite. So, because I went in there and I just wanted them to like figure out why my tooth is staining, and then it turned into this elaborate thing. And then my dentist was like, I mean, we can remove the stain, but it's just going to keep staining. We can close the crack, but the crack's just going to open. The best thing to do is to move your teeth into the right position first, so further damage doesn't happen. So then when we fix the crack, then your teeth are not going to grind and like you're not going to have the same issues. So it's more like a permanent fix, a very expensive one, mind you, but a permanent fix on the issues I was having. Um, so I didn't have braces for cosmetic reasons. It was all medical, I guess. Dentist visit turns into a murder mystery. I'm from America. Oh yeah, it was very expensive. So my whole dental care plan cost me £7,000, and I paid it over 2 years. Yeah. So I finished paying it now, but I paid it over 2 years. So yeah, exactly the same cost as me. Yeah, same cost as me. The case of curious stain. Teeth grinding is a common habit, a very expensive habit. I found out. I found out. I don't have dental insurance. I did before, but I don't have dental insurance anymore. Like, it's not really worth it because, like, it's very rare that I have dental issues. Like, even when I finish with this, what else could be wrong with my teeth? Max, it gets chipped or something happens. Like, That's the main thing that's going to happen to my. There's like nothing crazy is going to happen to my teeth. So I don't even think I need dental insurance. What I definitely need is like medical insurance, though. That I definitely need. Yes, I could get Invisalign. So my dentist gave me three options. In terms of changing the position of my teeth. So the first option was Invisalign, but he told me that Invisalign takes longer, first of all. So my case with braces was 2 years. With Invisalign, it'll take 3 to 4 years. And I was like, that's way too long. Then, secondly, he said you can get like the ceramic braces, the ones that have colors. And he was like, they kind of look cool, but they can break easily depending on what you eat. Or you can just get the metal braces where it's the fastest. Okay, it doesn't look as good. You can't get all the crazy colors, but it's fast. And they're also resistant to breaking. So the whole 2 years I've had braces, my braces haven't broken once. So that's why I chose the metal braces because it's just easier. I don't have to think about putting Invisalign on my teeth all the time. So yeah. Yeah, and you can't get like my case. You couldn't get on NHS because NHS mainly cover things that are like emergencies and stuff like that. Um, Mine hadn't reached the stage of an emergency. It was literally just a stain. So like NHS dentists would look at it and be like, "You just have a stain." And like even dental cleaning is also not considered like an emergency or necessity. So NHS wouldn't give you a free dental clean. So yeah, none of the stuff I got done would be covered by NHS. For people saying that dental care is covered by NHS, it's not. Well, it just depends what you're doing. It's just like, okay, good example. Let me tell you, this is why, even though we have free healthcare in the UK, it comes with caveats because, like, tomorrow, or technically today, because it's Wednesday, I'm going to a doctor, and this doctor is a private knee specialist. Like, he's the best knee specialist in Europe, apparently. And the reason I'm going to him is I used to be a basketball player, as some of you know. So I have some crazy knee issues. Like I have fucked up ligaments and tendons in my knees, and I've been dealing with the pain my whole life. It's why I walk really funny. If any of you have the chance to see me walk in person, just know I walk funny because I have fucked up knees. But anyway, the reason why I haven't had my knees fixed is because I tried to do it via NHS like 5 different times. And all those 5 times, they always undermine what's wrong with my knees. And that's because NHS is so about like only if it's an emergency. So they're looking at me like, well, you can stand, well, you can walk, well, you still play sports. It can't be that bad. So they underestimate how bad it is. And I keep telling them I want to be referred to a knee specialist. And they keep referring me to fucking physios. Like, a physio is not going to fix my knee. Like, I need a knee specialist. And they just don't listen. So and I've had these issues since I was about, I'd say maybe 19, and now I'm 28. So I've been dealing with the pain for this long. So now that, I'm making money consulting for brands, I'm now using it as a chance to pay for all the issues that I have that I've never been able to afford to fix. Um, so yeah, I'm fixing my knees. Obviously, I'm fixing my teeth, but that was all of only for medical reasons. I'd never do something for cosmetic reasons, only for medical reasons. So obviously, my teeth had issues. I'm fixing it. Um, Now my knees have issues. I don't know how much that's going to cost. I know it could probably cost me like 30,000, probably something insane like that. But I'm ready for it mentally. So it is what it is. Um, but yes, it's going to cost me a lot. But I think that my knees are worth paying however much it costs because like you only have two knees. You guys are asking me some very funny questions. Yeah, because if it was affordable, doctors and dentists wouldn't get paid the big bucks and less people would want to do it. 100%. That's very true. Yeah, because there is a doctor shortage, so they push mid-level like nurses and physical therapists. Yep, I still play basketball for fun. I even played basketball yesterday, literally. Like I can still play, it just hurts. But I think I'm so used to the pain because it's constant that like it's just always been there. So it's just like my knee hurts, it hurts, whatever. Like my life is not going to end because my knees hurt. So that's why I still just play and I do whatever. The pain is what it is. Sometimes the pain is like really bad and I have to like not do anything. But that hasn't happened for like a long time where like the pain is so excruciating. Like I have to just like sit down and elevate my leg. But actually, there are some situations where that kind of pain comes back. Like if I'm on a plane, because of like how tiny plane seats are, if my knees are really bent for an extended period of time, then that really hurts. Like if I'm on a 4 hour flight without standing and my knees are just bent. That's why I don't like long car journeys unless I have a lot of leg room because I need to be able to stretch my legs at intervals or my knees are going to start hurting. So yeah. Full court or half? Definitely half court. I don't play full court basketball anymore. I don't even have the fitness for that. Yeah, I just have yeah, these are tall people tend to have knee issues all the time. So I've heard. So these are very much tall people problems. But I'm just so happy I'm finally going to a knee specialist today. And like he's the best doctor. Like he does like osteotomy surgeries on like Premier League football players that have gone back to playing football after having like broken legs and torn ACL. So I know this guy. Like if he can't fix my problems, then no one can. Like if he can't fix them, then no one can. Yeah, it is like Canada. They'll just keep you living. 100%. 100%. More viewers during after hours than the fashion segment. These free flowing parts of the streams are always great. Yeah, I guess people just want me to talk about random shit. Um, who knows? I might have to start a different channel to just chat about random shit. Someone was asking me how tall I am. I'm 6 foot 2.5, but I just say 6 foot two because it's pretentious to be 6 foot 2.5. Like that's so pretentious. So I just say I'm 6 foot two. Um, can you tell us more about what you do in fashion consulting? Oh, it really depends. It really depends. I'm trying to think what brands can I tell you that I've consulted. Okay, so I once consulted for Jordan Brand, and the job that I was doing for Jordan Brand, I was essentially they were trying to figure out if because I'm not sure how much you know about Jordan Brand, but like they have been trying to infiltrate markets outside of the US. So their first successful way of doing that was in Paris, like with Paris Saint-Germain and like Kai 54 and like how culturally relevant Jordan Brand is in Paris now. So they've done it successfully. So what I was consulting with Jordan Brand on is how viable doing that in London is. And if they did that in London, how exactly would they go about doing that essentially? So that was the Jordan Brand job. Then I've worked with brands like Fred Perry on like marketing strategy. Right now, I'm in talks with another sportswear brand, but we haven't signed on the dotted line or anything. But we're just in talks about how we could work together. But that's going to be more of like helping with marketing strategy. So it really does depend on the brand, to be honest. It really does depend. How can one get into this role? It's really. I feel like consulting is like you have to figure out how to do the first job, and then from there you can kind of just progress from there. So I first did consulting with Fred Perry, and then you kind of, because fashion people talk, right? People in the industry talk. So someone might ask someone from Fred Perry, how did you think of doing this or that? And then if they mention me, they're like, oh, who's that? And then they might reach out to me, and then that's how it starts to happen. And how I got the Fred Perry connection was my mentor was head of business for Fred Perry. So that's how I started. And then I kind of just used that to kind of keep building and then doing more consulting jobs. And then you just kind of progress from there. Um, yeah, it's kind of how it works. How do you feel about the fashion content space these days? Do you prefer long form videos to shorts? Do you think it's harder or easier to break through than when you started? So, oh, that's a good question. So, first of all, I prefer long form videos. That's just me personally. But I do think that you'll make more money making short form. That's 100% for sure. As a content creator, if you're a full-time content creator. I also think it's a lot easier to break through now because of short form content. And why I say that is because when it was only long form content, you had to actually know what you're talking about, because when you're making long form video, you have to actually make cohesive points for a long period that make sense. When you make a short form content, you can make some like mindless, I could at Fashion Week, Rihanna could come, like I could be at the Dior show and Rihanna could walk in to the Dior show and I could just film Rihanna walking to the Dior show for 5 seconds, and then I could post on Instagram. Rihanna arrives at the Dior show and then it gets 1 million views and I gain 10K followers on TikTok. Like, that is how easy it is to make short form content. So I definitely think it's a lot easier now to break through than when I started. But it also has the effect of me. Oh, I mistakenly exited my own stream by mistake. That was funny. But I was saying that it essentially has the effect of it has the effect of not of creating content creators that don't really add a lot of value. There's a lot of short form content that's not really valuable, whereas a lot of long form content, most of it is really valuable. Like, people are going to make a point, they're going to tell you their point of view, they're going to make an argument. But when it comes to short form content, there's not a lot of value. That's why with short form content, I make a lot of short form content now because, like I just said about how easy it is to build an audience. But even then, I still try to be informative as much as you can in a short form format. That's why, like, I interview designers and I interview, like, recently I did the whole series where I interviewed Alex, who is the CEO and founder of Tagwalk. Like, I try to add really valuable things, even though it's short form content. And that's probably why I don't grow as fast, because I think, if I just wanted to gain followers, I could just do the Rihanna arrives at Dior. Like, I could just, make those kind of shorts. But even in the shorts I make, I still try to add value in a sense. And that's why my shorts are long. So it's funny because even when I make shorts, they tend to be 2 minutes long, or 2 minutes 30 seconds, or 3 minutes, or 1 minute 30 seconds. I don't make the 5 second, 10 second reels, because, like, you could literally make a reel. I've seen people make reels and get millions of views doing this, where, like, something shocking in fashion happens and then they just, like, it's just them, that, like the green screen thing that I do, it's just them with a shocked face and the headline behind them, and it's a 10 second reel. And it's like, for example, it will be like the I'm trying to think of something big that's happened in fashion recently. Let's say, like, when Prada bought Versace, they would just be, like, in front of a article talking about Prada buying Versace, and they'll be like, Prada just bought Versace. Oh my God. Let me know your thoughts. And then that's the video. That's the video. Whereas I personally have the tendency to be like, Prada just bought Versace. Here is why it makes sense. And then I start explaining why it makes sense. And then it becomes a really long short form video. Then it becomes, 2 minutes long. But, like, yeah, people literally go, oh my God, Prada just bought Versace. I can't believe it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. It's like so insane that that's like a content style, but it really is. It really is like a content style. That shit is so fucking funny. So to answer that question, I definitely think it's a lot easier to make like be prominent with content these days than it was. I think it was a lot harder back then when you had to actually formulate an opinion. The red carpet commentators whose opinion are eight, she's giving boring hate. At least these kind of red carpet reviewers, at least they give more context than the people that just go in front of the camera. Um, so yeah, I think these people are still bad, but they're not as bad as the other people. Yeah. Short form content gets irritating very easily for me. I prefer to read or long content. Fair enough. If you start doing closet tours, I'll be in heaven. I might have to do one of those. It's just the setup of my house isn't set up for a closet tour. Like my bedroom is really tiny. Like where would you put the camera? They want to be the Philip DeFranco of fashion journalism so bad. Yeah, so it's I don't know short form. But that being said, there are some people that make really good short form content. Like there's a guy who I talk about called Papa Yang. I like the stuff that he makes. There's people. Um, Even Tuba Avalon when she makes short form content is really good. And it's really well produced too, like high production level. There are quite a lot of short form content creators that like opulent styling, data but make it fashion. Because Marde, who runs that page, she just gives you like random fashion facts that are really cool. She'll be like 45% of luxury consumers that like it's really cool. So there are some really good ones, but there are also a lot of really bad ones. Like a lot of really bad ones. That's so nice of you, Uni, to say. Absolutely appreciate all you do. Can't follow channels that just say, let me know what you think. But it's because they don't know. Like, it's because they don't have an opinion. That's why they have to be like, let me know what you guys think. It's because they don't have their own, they can't formulate an opinion. So they just make you do it. And then they learn from you in the comments. Would you recommend having my thesis as final project for fashion school in my fashion portfolio? Even if it was a service and not a collection, I want to shoot my shot for. Yeah, I'd say put it in your portfolio. I'd say definitely put it in your portfolio. Thank you, Purple Rain. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Oh, the Prada Cafe. I remember that. Are you talking about the one in Harrods? Or is it a different one? Iced tea. My laptop is on crack and shrooms this afternoon. Foxy Cinnamon, where are you based? Okay, you're talking about the Harrods one. Yeah, I remember. I remember that. Every brand now is just doing their own cafe pop-ups and having Prada themed croissants and stuff like that. That's the new frontier. Experiences over luxury goods. I just think we're in a dystopian fashion industry now where everything has to be branded. Why does my croissant have to have a logo on it? Like I just want a croissant. Okay, random question actually for you guys in the chat. I'm curious to see what people think about this. What do you guys think about McQueen returning to London Fashion Week? I'm curious. For those of you that are aware about that, I'm just curious. What do you guys think about that? How fast did I grow an online following? Not very fast. Like this YouTube channel is old. Like, but the reason why, to be honest, to caveat that, one of the reasons why my channel or my social media pages haven't grown as fast is because I'm not I've never been like a full-time content creator, if that makes sense. Like I've always had a job. So can't post the way that a full-time content creator would post, right? So like at one point I was working at Carmel Global and Polones. At one point I was a writer at BOF. At one point I was writing for Vogue Runway, and then I started doing consulting. So that's why like sometimes I won't stream for like 2 months. Um, Let me see when it says my oldest video was. Let's have a look. My oldest video on this channel was 8 years ago. And I feel like I made some videos before then, and they just didn't yeah, I guess I just deleted them or whatever, because maybe I think differently about some of the points I made. But yeah, I've been on YouTube for a very long time. 8 years is a very, very long time. Very, very long time. Some people in 8 years have 1 million subscribers. But what I talk about is niche, to be fair. It's not like if I had a basketball channel and I was running that for 8 years, I'll probably have 1 million subscribers. But yeah, oh my God. I remember these videos like they were yesterday. When I bought my Margiela numbers ring, when I went to the Converse One Star Hotel. Oh my God, what a time. When I used to go to allotment to go and look at the new seasons of Andermelemeister. Like crazy. And all this stuff is so documented because it's so cool that like there's like a new generation of kids that like are getting into the stuff that I was into at the same age. And so like I see new kids and like they make the videos that I made like 9 years ago. Like I would make a video like who is the Antop Six and like those kind of videos. And then I see people make that like now. And I'm like, oh, this is really cool. This is like basically the new frontier of what I used to do. Like it's very cool. Let me look at some of these videos if I remember some of them. Tips for thrifting vintage clothes. Who is Christopher Bailey? Like, this is how you know I've been on YouTube for a long time. I'm making deep dive videos about Christopher Bailey. Who still talks about Christopher Bailey? Like, who still talks about Christopher Bailey? Like, the dark side of the modeling industry. Who is J.W. Anderson? That was 7 years ago. Celine versus Chanel. Oh my God, Ada Era. Does that brand still exist? Oh, Gosha Rubchinsky. I remember when that controversy happened. I made a video when Raf Simons left Calvin Klein. These videos are bringing me back. That's crazy. The Antwerp 6 video was the first one I watched from your channel. Yeah, we're bringing it back. That's crazy. That's crazy. This is like, I feel like my YouTube channel is like a time capsule, honestly. Okay, this is when, I remember this. This video about Kiko Konstantinov, this is when, I'm not sure how many of you have been into fashion for a long time, but there was literally a time in fashion when Kiko Konstantinov used to run his Instagram, like his personal Instagram, even though it was the brand Instagram. So he would like get angry about something and just start ranting on his Instagram page. He doesn't do that anymore. So like there was one day that there's one day that he got mad at Virgil Abloh and he like started saying like Virgil Abloh is not even a real designer, and he just went on a rant on his like official Instagram page. So I made a video about that. Oh my God, I remember these videos. This is when I'll do like Paris Fashion Week recaps. So I was talking about like Yohji Yamamoto and Berluti and Boris Bijan Saberi and all that sort of stuff. How many content creators do you know have done like deep dives on Berluti from like 7 years ago? Like this is checking out the Andermelemeister Spring Summer 19 collection. Who is Rei Kawakubo? That got a lot of views, to be honest. I didn't even realize because I haven't seen these videos. I did a video on who is Vivienne Westwood. So that's why like some people ask me why I don't make specific kinds of content. And it's because I've already made those videos. Like some people will be like, I'd really love to know what you think about Vivienne Westwood, or like, what do you think about Rei Kawakubo? And it's like, I've literally made a video. But I get it, because these videos are so old. And like I remember it because I made it. Like I was the one doing research for like months to make these videos. But like I understand why if you just found my channel, because sometimes I forget that some people have literally found out about my channel today. So how are they supposed to know I made these videos 7 years ago? Um, but the content that I've made, be rest assured that a lot of videos I've made, a lot of people have copied those formats. I'm just saying, the evidence is there. I mean, that's the wonderful thing about social media. Everything has a timestamp on it. Like 7 years ago, I'm making videos on Eddie Slimane Celine and the evolution of Eddie Slimane. Like I've been talking about this fashion stuff for a very, very, very long time, guys. Like a very, very long time. Um, what are these? Oh my God, Fenty by Rihanna. That was the fashion brand that she launched. Yeah, that brand was definitely overrated. I definitely still believe that. Um, oh, this was a cool video. I did a deep dive review on Martine Rose's Spring Summer 20 collection. And I remember I did an A Cold War review that same season. Those and a Kiko Kostadnov review for Spring Summer 20. Those were some really good videos. Those are some really, really, really good videos, to be fair. Um, so yeah, but anyway, these are all reasons why. Oh my God, this was when I interviewed Magnus Running. That was such a long time ago. Um, best places to shop in London. That's a young Micah, a young Micah. Yeah, this is me talking about John Galliano's whole anti-Semitism thing. A Curious Case of Marine Sam, Moncler Genius. And then I used to also talk about, other designers that were coming up at the time, like Paria Farzaneh. How many of you know who Paria Farzaneh is? Like exploring Nigerian fashion. I want to make content like this when I go to Nigeria this December, but we'll see if I have like the time to do all of that. But yeah, so like this is the thing. This is why, because some people ask me, how come like you're able to remember all these collections and stuff? But it's like I've literally been doing these reviews for like 8+ years. So I just remember because I had to do the research to make those videos. So you don't really remember, you know what I mean? What is a very long time when you're still under 30? That's funny. Fair enough. That's hilarious. Like even I made a video on Dao Young Ding. Dao Young Ding was a really good designer. I haven't really heard much from the brand recently, but I did like Dao Young Ding's work. Like really, really cool. This is me talking about Tyrex. This was a cool era. This is when I used to do like the podcast with Dami and Jason. Shout out to Jason. Jason is let me give you guys some like old fashioned lore of people who have appeared on my channel over the years. So this lovely white man that you're probably gonna see, that's Jason. That's one of my friends. Guess how we're friends? We're friends because both of us are Under Millimista fanboys. So we met through just being Under Millimista fanboys, and then we just became friends over the years, and we've been good friends since. But Jason lives in China now. He's a teacher in China, which is so cool. Like he speaks fluent Mandarin and everything. It's like insane. But we're still friends till today. So yeah, that's one law. Because someone asked me in the chat, I think, what happened to all the old people that appeared in my old videos. Let me show you. This is like one of my oldest videos. This is like roaming around London with some mates. So this guy here you're looking at, this guy is Ayo. Ayo, yeah, yes, we have the same name. Just know that in Nigeria, Ayo is always short for something. So in my case, my full name is Odunayo, but people just call me Ayo. It's easier. But yeah, Ayo is one of my best friends. Actually, background for people that don't know who Ayo is, actually, to give him his flowers. Um, Ayo, when I decided I wanted to work in fashion, there were a lot of people that I went to school with who, because Ayo and I, we went to school together. There were a lot of people. Yeah, I was really moody, to be fair. You're correct. But a lot of people that I went to school with were really unsupportive of like me trying to make content or be in fashion, and they would like have really snidey, snarky comments to say, like, "Oh, he thinks he's trying to be an influencer. He's trying to do that." They would always like be hating, and one of the few people that always was in my corner and always was like being like supportive and always checking in on me, making sure I'm okay, is him. So, and we're still very good friends till today. But Ayo is doing very well for himself. He works in finance. um, he works in finance now, so he makes that good money. Um, but yeah, that's one of my friends. I think the people from this video, they're a lot of my friends. Okay, this girl here, she's like a singer, but we're not friends anymore. But I won't actually, because I don't want to. I won't say why we're not friends. But she's doing really well for herself. Hamza, she's yeah, she's a well-known artiste. She's a singer. She sings. So when I'm not friends with her now. Who else was in this video? Who else was in this video? Okay, that's another one of my friends, Jabril. We're still friends. He was also someone who was supportive when everyone else was like talking rubbish during that time. Um, yeah, it is terrifying, isn't it? How old 2019 looks on camera. Like, if I was to vlog on a camera now, it would be so crispy and clear. But that's just how cameras looked back then. And I had a DSLR back then, so it wasn't even like I had some bad camera. Um, I'm trying to think who else is featured in my videos. I mean, you guys know Micah. There's this guy here. This is Oliver. Oliver is I'll show you guys Oliver actually. This guy that you guys are looking at right now. Because he is like so cool. He's a photographer and a really good one at that. He's like one of my favorite photographers right now. He's so good. Like he's really good. Let me see if I can show you guys his Instagram. Yeah, this is his Instagram. This is Oliver's Instagram. But like we still talk. I still talk to Oliver today. But he works a lot with like sports brands these days. Like he gets a lot of like jobs with like sportswear companies and stuff like that. But I just think he's like such a good photographer. Like he's so good. But yeah, that's Oliver. Let me see if he probably has his website. See if I can find his website. His portfolio is probably gonna be on there. But yeah, his name is Oliver James Campbell. If you're looking for a really good photographer. Let's see. Index. Let's see what projects he has. Oh, he did a shoot with Arsenal. That's really cool. Arsenal and Stanley. Fair enough. I don't even understand what that. Can you guys in the chat tell me what the hype of like Stanley Cups is? I still don't get it. Oh yeah, he did some like Penhaligon stuff, L'Oreal, Louis Vuitton. This is like some of his product shots, which are like really cool. But yeah, anyway, so that's Oliver. He's doing really well. He's cool. I'm trying to think who else has featured. You guys already know Micah, so I don't need to show you guys Micah. Let's see, oldest. Who else has featured on my channel? Maybe Yaku. Let me see if I can find a video that Yaku's in. Yeah, this is Yaku. We did this video which was like reacting to subscribers' outfits, which was really funny because it's just people asking to get roasted basically. But Yaku is doing really well. Yaku is Yaku's a fashion designer. He was at CSM when I was in CSM. He actually won the L'Oreal Prize, which is when you have the best collection, MA collection at CSM. So he won the L'Oreal Award. He's won so many awards he's won at this point. Fred Perry Award. He recently actually had a collaboration with Nike. Let me show you guys Yaku's Instagram, but we're still friends as well. I'm really cool with Yaku. Crazy story how I met Yaku actually. This is crazy, some crazy origin stories. So how I met Yaku was I went to a Cold War drop like so long ago, and he was in the queue, and me being talkative me, I just like talking to people. So I got talking to him and I found out he was like into fashion too, and like he was going to study geography in Leeds, and I was going to study chemical engineering in Leeds. And it's so random how both of us did something science related and we studied in Leeds. And then he went on to study fashion design and I went to study fashion journalism. So I guess we were always just meant to do something in fashion. Um, but yeah, let me see if I can find his Instagram page so I can show you guys. Yeah, this is his Instagram. So I want to see if I can show you like the Nike collab they did, because the Nike collab was really big. Like it sold out. This is like, yeah, when they like the LNCC drop, but like it sold out. Like it sold really well. I was so happy for him. Um, let's see, because I know he had like some campaign video that they did with Nike. Just to put it on the screen for you guys. Yeah, I think it's this. This was the campaign video for the Nike collection. Yeah, so that's the Nike campaign. So yeah, that's Yaku. I'm trying to think who else has appeared, who else has made an appearance in my streams and stuff. Um, I mean, you guys know Anastasia. That's more recent. You guys know Micah. I think that might be it in terms of like guest appearances on my channel, other than like interviews. Um, but in terms of like my actual friends, yeah, Damilare. But I think Damilare and Al are more recent, so you guys would know who these people are. I'm more talking like from the old videos. Um, who else? I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think. Okay, I'm just reading the chat. You guys are giving me the rundown on the Stanley Cup. More back in the day, Micah. Oh, you guys want to see Micah from back? A young Micah. A young Micah. I mean, I've been making videos with Micah for a long time. Oh my God. I have a funny background story about a video. So this video here, like, oh my God, let me turn on the audio one second because this is so funny. Um, do you know what's funny about this video? This video was when like was when I was watching a lot of like I was watching a lot of just like cinematic YouTubers, and I wanted to make some like cinematic fashion video. Like, but it's just like it's so far from the kind of content I would make now, because it's not now all I do is talk. But then I was like literally doing like fashion photo shoot kind of like trolly content, which just for fun. Um, it was just so funny. I feel like I've been through all the eras of the internet. um, what other old videos can I show you? Because like there's probably some funny stuff hidden in all of these videos. When did you and Michael decide to intertwine even more into your fashion journey? He's your manager. Yeah, so I mean, we've always known each other, but it's just in terms of like from a business, I think Micah and I started working together business wise just over a year ago. So it hasn't been that long that we've actually been working, but we've always like done what we've always worked with each other just unofficially. Like he needs my help for a project, I'll help him. I need his help for a project. Like we've always worked in that capacity, but in terms of like now actively working together, like day to day, like that was just over a year ago. Um, what other funny stuff that I have for you? I mean, there's some crazy stuff locked up in some of these videos, right? I remember we used to make these lookbook videos. That those are my Andemela Meister and Kiko Kostadnov days. Um, like this video, for example. I actually love this video. I personally think this is one of the best videos I've ever made. I'm not gonna lie. Like this best places to shop in London for high end fashion. I had a part one and a part two. This was a good series because this you guys need to remember. Like now, people know where to shop, but like you guys need to remember when I was making YouTube videos, these were some of the videos that I made are the first of their kind. So like so having someone tell you, oh, you can go to machine A and there's closet case and there's the library and there's like lab store. Like that was there wasn't all of that just all in one video. And that's how I know fashion was so niche because after I made this video, I don't know how many views it has now. Okay, it has 27K views, which is a lot, I guess, but this is like after 6 years. I remember at the time it had maybe 5K views, and everyone that worked in all of these stores knew who I was because that's how like niche fashion was at the time. Um, because yeah, like yeah, see, this is a young Micah, a young Mr. Micah with the pinstripe trousers. A youngin Micah. That's crazy. But yeah, this is definitely like one of my favorite videos I make because like you genuinely like now there's probably a billion TikToks on like places to shop in London, but it's more the time I made this because the reason I made this actually was because it didn't exist. It's the same reason why one video I made that I really like is let me show you guys because it's the same thing. Like this stuff didn't exist, right? Um, Let me see. Like this video here is another one of my favorite videos I've ever made. This was a bit more recent, exploring the best fashion spots in Antwerp. So like in Antwerp, I went to like all, like Labels Inc. and like Veer, Antwerp, and all these stores, and it's like 1 hour 28 minutes, like because these videos, like a lot of these videos don't exist. So it's all about context because then you'll get to a point where so many people have videos on like places to shop in Antwerp, but it's not, that. See, this is a young Micah, a young Micah on the scene. Do you know what's crazy? One of these vlogs, I think we met Stephen Jones. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, this is when we were in Machine A. That's Harry Tibble. Harry Tibble's really big in fashion now, funny enough. Let's see. I think, yeah, we were in DSM at the time when we met. That was the first time I ever met Stephen Jones. This is what I mean, like, this is why, like, there was a time before, like, social media became, like, this is before, and this is why people always ask me, how do you know so many people in, fashion? It's because look, I was outside meeting these people. Like I'll go into Machine 8, meet Harry Tibble. I'd go into DSM, meet Stephen Jones. I'll go like that. If you were outside back then, you would meet a lot of people, genuinely. um Oh, where's the part? Yeah, this is where we met Stephen Jones. I found it. I found it. This is a young Micah and me behind the camera having a laugh with Mr. Stephen Jones, having a nice chat. He's Stephen Jones is a really nice person though. I love Stephen Jones. We were literally just having a little nerdy fashion chat and like asking him about some of the because I remember at the time I think he was doing millinery for Stephen Jones, millinery for Dior, sorry. So we were asking him about some of the process of how he was making a lot of that stuff. So guys, there's if you guys look at the gems, if you guys go do a deep dive of the channel, you'll find a lot of gems just hidden across the videos I've made over the years. To be honest, someone said the law is crazy. Yeah, there's a lot of law on this channel. There is a lot of law. Culture says the answer: go outside. Facts. Facts. You need to. These kids need to. These fashion kids need. These TikTok kids need to touch grass. They need to actually go outside and speak to the people. He needs to make a Dior menswear hat with JW. That's not hasn't. Didn't he make? I feel like he has. To be fair, I feel like he has. And yeah, this video had a part two, which was cool because like we couldn't. There wasn't enough time to go to all the stores because the stores were UJ&G. Arrow Archive is so much bigger now. Arrow Archive is such a good store, you guys, if you're not aware of Arrow Archive. And they have multiple locations now because this video came out like years ago. Um, but yeah, a lot happened. Someone said Io walks so Loic could run. I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't go that far. Loic has always had access in the industry. He just didn't have a YouTube channel. So I definitely wouldn't say I walked so Loic could like. That's a bit ridiculous. But thank you for gassing me up though. Fashion life has had many changes since that time, road man. You'll never see that again because social media AI fakery has taken over, sadly. Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame. When I got into fashion, I feel like everyone was outside. Like, oh my God, like fashion is so different now. Like there was oh, what was this thing called again? What was this thing called? Yeah, I've talked about this in streams in the past, but there was a place called Never Fade in London. Yes, this place here. I don't think it still exists, but this place is probably one of the most important things in fashion, like ever. Like there was this store in London and it was in central London. I don't know how they afforded to like keep that space in central London for as long as they did because central London is so expensive. But essentially Never Fade was this place. It was run by this man. He was like from Cameroon, really nice guy. And he just used to pay the rent of this place. I don't know where he got funding from. I think he got funding from the government or something. And he used to pay the rent for this space in central London. And they just had sewing machines there and you could buy stuff there. And essentially a lot of people that are big designers now started designing in Never Fade. That was where like they got access to sewing machines, and it was a place for like inner city kids. Instead of getting into trouble, they could just go into this place every day and like create clothes and like make clothes and learn to design and sew things. And then if the owner of the store thought like one of your pieces was good enough, then he would actually create a rack for you, like Selfridges, like you have your own little space for your brand. And then customers could come in. Because of where it was located, it was so central that like random people just walk in, like, what's going on here? And then sometimes you'd have rich people that walk in and then they would be like, oh, this is really interesting. How much for this? And then they'll buy something. And that would be a way that some of these like up and coming designers could make an income. And quite literally, some of the designers that came out of this are like big designers now. Like someone that comes to mind, for example, is Jaffa. Like I'm not sure if you guys know this guy, Jaffa Saba, but he's an example of someone that came out of Never Fade, and now he's like big. He like does creative directing for True Religion and like all that sort of stuff. Like he does True Religion collections, and he's quite well known and he's quite big. So there's a lot of in this like fashion thing. There's so much law, especially in terms of London. So much law. Rain says, but you notice one thing about this content is 2019 was just before COVID. Maybe that's the big factor. I guess so. I guess so. There's definitely Malays. There's completely overtaking fashion, killed the joy that made us go outside. Talk to fashion, talk about fashion online all the time. The vibe is dead and sad now. Yeah, that's sad. Oh, Idea literally always has events on. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. I need to tap in. I need to lock in. It just depends on where you're going. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. That's cool. I'm so happy to see that stuff is still going on. Because I think, because obviously now I'm not in touch with that because I'm so busy working, but that was such a good way for like-minded creators and fashion people to come together. And so some more context about Never Fade, actually, and this goes into like Jaffa and other people, is the core thing. And I know Jaffa till today, by the way. I was with Jaffa I had dinner with him at Milan Fashion Week, I think 2 seasons ago. So I'm still cool with Jaffa even till today. But so context, Never Fade was in central London, and early time when I first got into fashion, I used to resell, of course, like everyone did. I used to resell Supreme and stuff. So all of us that used to resell Supreme would like, because a lot of people weren't actually from London. Like a lot of these kids, like there were a lot of us that were from London, but then there were some kids that were from Essex, some kids that were from Kent, some kids that were from Brighton. Like there were people like Lydia Clear. I don't even know what Lydia Clear is still doing now, but she was from like Brighton. Like Tej was from Brighton. Quite a lot of these people that were well known in the fashion scene at the time. So because they had traveled so far to come to the drop, it's not like after the drop they'll just go home. So that's why we would all just go from the Supreme drop into Never Fade, and we would just hang out, and then the actual people that wanted to be designers like Jaffa would be designing, and then all the rest of us would just like hang around and just chill and just like vibe, play music, talk about fashion all day, and just do that constantly. So that was how fashion was in London when I was younger. That's literally how it was. Never Fade sounds like a fantasy realm. It kind of is when you think about it. It really was. Like it really was. I'm not going to lie to you. Um, so yeah, guys. Anyway, I had a lot of fun taking a trip down memory lane with all of you. However, I have now been streaming for 4 hours. I'm probably not going to get sleep before I go to see the doctor, but at least I like need to do other things, like answer emails. But thank you very much for tuning in. I definitely appreciate it. I'm going to Turkey on Friday on holiday, but I'm hoping I might be able to stream out there or not. It really depends on how fast the internet in the hotel is. So we'll see. But either way, thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in the